Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March 6, 2007 meeting of the Glendale City Council, commencing at 6:03 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Here.
Quintero, here. Yusefian, here. Mayor Weaver.
Here. Flag salute tonight will be led by Councilmember Najarian. The invocation by City Clerk Artie Kosakian. Please stand.
Let's rise and face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today, Glendale marked Arbor Day with presentations and reflections offered at the Casa Adobe in Glendale. I would like to share with you tonight part of my invocation for that occasion. The great American philosopher and transcendentalist writer Henry David Thoreau is best known for his writings about nature. Of the wilderness, which was being threatened even then by the Industrial Revolution, he wrote the following: "The wilderness is near as well as dear to every man. The very uprightness of the pines and maples asserts the ancient rectitude and vigor of nature. Our lives need the relief of such a background where the pine flourishes and the jay still screams. Today on Arbor Day, a day of pines and maples, or in the case of our jewel city, of oaks and sycamores, we who live in Glendale pray to give thanks to these gifts of nature. Let us in prayer rededicate ourselves to the idea of conservation and preservation of our natural habitat. We pray for hope and for the future of our natural resources. We plant and preserve these trees knowing that we may not live to enjoy the shade they will provide, but that our children and their children will. Amen."
Amen. Thank you. May we have your report?
The agenda for the March 6, 2007 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, March 1st, 2007 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And what is next?
Next is presentation and appointments. At 3A is agenda preview for the meeting of March 13, 2007.
Mr. McFall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For next week on the Glendale Housing Authority, there will be one item where the Director of Community Development Housing will be presenting a letter of intent for the East Garfield project. On the Glendale Redevelopment Agency, there will be one item from the Director of Development Services regarding a proposed Alliance Development Group housing and mixed-use project located at 524 through 550 West Colorado and 544 through 552 West Elk. There will also be a joint meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority to consider one item from the Director of Community Development Housing, that being to request to the authorization of the City of Glendale to apply to the State of California for what is the annual Workforce Programs Fund, and if so awarded, granting the authorization to enter into the agreement. At 6 o'clock, there will be a study session in the council chambers. That study session to be a discussion of the of view protection in general. At the City Council meeting, there are a number of items. The Director of Administrative Services, Human Resources, will be providing an amendment to the City GMA Memorandum of Understanding. The Director of Public Works will be providing a report regarding the proposed installation of 7 taxi stands at various locations throughout the City of Glendale. And then lastly, the Acting Director of Planning will be presenting a report on a potential zone change to establish a special setback along Glen Oaks Boulevard. That's all.
Thank you. And what is next, please?
At 3B is proclamation designating March 8, 2007 as World Kidney Day.
Let's see. Accepting on this will be Lori Hartwell, Dean Hartwell, coming up. And are your other groups here too, or are you the two?
Yeah, my mom.
Isabella?
Come on. Marlene and Richard Tovo.
Thank you, and I'll read the proclamation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Whereas the Renal Support Network and Wellness and Education Kidney Advocacy Network and other organizations nationwide are recognizing kidney disease on this day, and whereas of the estimated 20 million people, or 1 in 9 adults, with chronic kidney disease, and another 20 million are at risk for developing chronic kidney disease. And whereas by calling attention to the importance of education and patient self-empowerment with regard to chronic kidney disease within our city, We hope to improve the quality and availability of such information services. And now, therefore, I, Dave Weaver, Mayor of the City of Glendale, proclaim March 8, 2007 as World Kidney Day, and encourage the citizens of Glendale to seek counsel and input from any person or group, such as the RSN and the We Can, with knowledge and expertise in matters concerning chronic kidney disease. I'd like to ask
Thank you.
Mr. Ajarian to present this to you.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, my name is Lori Hartwell, and I have lived with kidney disease for 38 years. I was diagnosed in 1968 from actually the E. coli bacteria. I've been on dialysis for 12 years, and I've had 3 kidney transplants and 36 surgeries. So my goal is to let the community know that kidney disease is an epidemic. 1 in 9 people in this country have some form of kidney disease. So if you do the math here, there's some people here that don't know it. The 2 number 1 causes of kidney failure are high blood pressure and diabetes. And I have many of my friends who have ended up in the emergency room, had no idea they had kidney disease. So it's a silent disease, and the point of World Kidney Day is to bring awareness to this because kidneys aren't glamorous. And there's over 400,000 people in this country on dialysis, over 95,000 people waiting for a transplant. There's over 500 people in this city on dialysis. And if you do the math of over 200,000 people, 1 in 9 have chronic kidney disease. This is a health hazard, and it's preventable if you seek treatment, take care of your blood pressure, take care of diabetes, so you don't have to go through dialysis and then wait for a transplant. Kidneys aren't very glamorous, and one of the things that I try to educate the public about, Renal Support Network has a lot of projects. We throw prom for all the teenagers with kidney disease in this country. You wouldn't believe how many teenagers have kidney disease. But people have also lived on dialysis for over 35 years. So I'm also seeking to let people know that, don't be afraid to have your kidneys checked. Make sure they're okay. There's a lot of treatment options. But it is preventable if you take action. And we have a website, rsnhope.org, that you can go and find information about kidney disease. You can find other patients who have lived successfully with it. And we are a resource in Glendale for people. And, please let us know. We have educational meetings throughout the country. And it's really important, if you have an illness, to become educated, learn about it, because there's hope. And my key saying is, an illness is too demanding when you don't have hope. In kidney disease, there's a lot of hope, but you got to take care of yourself.
Thank you. And I think the word got out pretty clear here tonight to the public watching on TV.
So, thank you. Oh, one other thing.
Yes.
There's some flyers here with all the symptoms of kidney disease that I prepared, and you can pass them out. And the warning signs of kidney disease, and please educate your family. And just one other thing, there's a quick test that they can do at doctor's offices to check if you have kidney disease. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, what is next, please?
City Council and staff comments.
That's going to be moved till after oral communications.
Next is consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of the council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Mr. Starbird.
Mr. Mayor, we'd ask that item 5F be pulled from consent so the staff can make a presentation. That's the Glendale Educational Foundation request for co-sponsorship of the 2007 Student Showcase Extravaganza. Thank you.
So is that presentation tonight or
Tonight, yes.
under present?
Yes, so just take it off of, we'll actually make a presentation then after you complete the consent calendar.
Oh, okay. With that, Mr. Yusefian?
I'd like to move 5A out and move the rest.
Second. Okay, with the one abstention by Mr. Yusefian, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Yusefian,
Aye.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Now, Mr. Starbird, you
5A, I pulled 5A out because, Mr. Weaver, you also have to abstain. Both of us were absent.
Should hold the minutes over then?
If you pass by a majority of the quorum.
Okay.
I'll move 5A.
Second.
okay. Roll call.
Council members Menuchyan, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Yusefian,
Abstain.
Mayor Weaver.
I
Abstain.
abstain on, yeah, I forgot I was downtown L.A. that night. I don't do that very often. Okay, now, Mr.
For
Starbird,
5F, I'll go to Bob McFall for staff report.
want to read into the record first?
Please.
5F is City Manager regarding a request from the Glendale Educational Foundation for co-sponsorship of the 2007 Student Showcase Extravaganza. At 5F1 is motion co-sponsoring the extravaganza, and at 5F2, resolution appropriating $4,000.
Mr. Starbird, going to Mr. McFall?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Glendale Educational Foundation was reformed about 3 years ago as a nonprofit public benefit corporation. Their sole purpose being to provide fundraising to support special types of activities within the Glendale Unified School District. This past year, there was an event that was held by the school district called the Student Showcase Extravaganza that highlighted special artistic talents of many of the students in the school district, K through 12. The success of that program lent to the idea of expanding it to have this event held at the Alex Theater to a larger audience and have it co-sponsored by 3 major participating organizations, the Glendale Unified School District, the Alex Theater itself, and the City of Glendale. The Glendale Educational Foundation has requested the city to co-sponsor it, actually through the means of providing our GTV6 staff to film and edit the video of the event, make that available to the participants, and to air the video on Channel 6. Jared Anderson, who is the honorary chair of the Glendale Educational Foundation, is here this evening that can provide further information on this request. From an expense standpoint, the high end of the cost would be approximately $4,000. We think it'll actually be something less than that, but we wanted to make sure that that was sufficient to provide for the staff and editing time that would be necessary.
Okay, 2 speakers, Jared Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm
Is
joined...
2 minutes enough? Do you need more?
What's that?
2 minutes enough, or do you need more time?
No, we're fine, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I am privileged to be the honorary chair of the fundraising drive for the Glendale Education Foundation this year, and what you're being asked to approve tonight has been outlined by Mr. McFall, and I think you will be very pleased with the event that's going to go on. Mr. John Satt, our Vice President, is with me, and he's going to tell you a little more about that event. I think you should know, as members of the council, where this money is going. This is a new effort on the part of the foundation, which was reconstituted just this past year with the leadership of Fire Chief Chris Gray. In 2006, we raised almost $100,000. Wish it were $100 million. $100,000 for the foundation. That money is used to fund projects that the school district would not otherwise have the funds for in their normal budget. And for this year, as you've probably been aware, we have funded a number of visual and performing arts projects throughout the school district. And those events are going on as we speak. They will be repeated in 2008, and along with a new initiative, with the additional money, we've raised our sites to $200,000, and we're well on our way, we hope, to that goal when we finish our project this spring. We will be funding a great amount of technology tools for our students and for our teachers. In addition to the technology hardware that we will be obtaining, we will also provide training for the teachers so that they will be proficient with these tools as they teach the students. And then in 2009, the next year, we will be going into the area of health and fitness on this 3-year program. What you will see then in this event in June, Mr. Shad will indicate to you how that project is going.
Thank you. Marty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is John Sad. I'm here on behalf of the Glendale Educational Foundation with Susan Hunt from the school district and Barry McComb from the Alex Theater. And we are very appreciative and we are very thrilled to be hosting on June 8th the Extravaganza talent show at the Alex Theater. The show will feature talent from our 12th grade through K students in a talent show, and it will also feature art exhibits in the front of the Alex Theater. We will have some VIP seats available, the real good seats at the Alex, and there'll also be seats available for $10 to the general public, and we hope to fill the Alex Theater and really create an event that is something that's enjoyed by everybody and gives our kids from our schools a chance to showcase their skills. And we appreciate very much your consideration. Thank you.
Well, I would just speak on behalf of the Alex Theater.
You'll turn in a card after, correct?
I will. Actually, going back several years ago, there was a similar event held at the theater which was very successful and unfortunately kind of fell by the wayside because of funding. We've been working to try to bring an event like this back for several years and are very pleased to be a partner together with the other organizations. And as I know the staff report reflects, through our education outreach program, we're going to be waiving the normal rental fees for the evening as well as the labor costs to provide this opportunity for the students. And again, would hope that the city would join.
Please, folks, please don't applaud too much in here. We try to not do that. I understand it's a very good thing, but just for those that do know, no booing and no clapping. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. I'm Susan Hunt. I just have a couple of little things to say. We're very much looking forward to this partnership. We've worked well with the city in the past. We certainly are enjoying an opportunity to work again with the Alex Theater. I do have, most of you I think got one of these in the mail, but I have some extra copies of our latest Glendale Educational Foundation newsletter. It gives you an update on our projects. We have 19 elementary schools enjoying artists in residence from the Music Center right now. That's a wonderful partnership we're hoping to be able to continue. So we're very proud of what we're up to, and we hope to join with you in this project in June. Thank you.
Thank you. And now you're hoping for a motion and a second on 5F1 and 2?
I'll move 5F1 and
two?
5F2.
I have a question.
Okay, question first?
I have a question. Or you could, someone wants to second it.
Somebody want a second? Okay, I'll pass
I'll second, but I was going to ask a question.
Okay, go right ahead.
So this is a tripartite sponsorship. It's the Alex, it's the city, and the school district. And the city is, we're going to do the filming, and the Alex is, you're basically giving them the theater free of charge. What's the value of that?
Value giving one of the big pieces of our mission is to promote arts education. As I referred to back when a similar event like this was held, we feel that by providing an opportunity for school children to perform in an environment like the Alex Theater, that it's an experience that can't be replicated in their day-to-day activities at school, as well as it's an opportunity to showcase to the community the breadth of talent that exists within the school district's arts programs. So that matches our education outreach programs that we do on an ongoing basis.
So my question is, what's the value of...
the value. I'm sorry. Typically, to rent for those 2 days would be about $5,500. Labor is probably another couple thousand on top of that.
And then there'll be tickets sold to this event to the parents and other students and all that.
We're funding our participation through dollars that we set aside each year for educational programs.
So if you pack the Alex...
the foundation...
that'll be a nice return on the to the foundation.
Okay. Thank you very much, all. You can sit down and wait the outcome. There's been a motion. Mr. Quintero.
I just want to say I think this is a great idea. It's obviously going to make money for the school district, and more importantly, all the kids in the system are going to get to participate. There's certainly plenty of sponsorship from private entities and and private citizens. So I think it's the least the city can do. The Alex, after all, is a community theater owned by all the residents of Glendale, so I'm all for it.
Thank you. With that,
I have a question.
Mr. Yusefian.
I have a question from the city attorney. The foundation is a 501(c)(3) organization. My question is, and it's not the funding, I have no problem with the funding. That's not the issue. My issue is with the program being repeated on Channel 6. For many years, we've had a policy of not putting things on Channel 6 unless there are city issues. The school district currently has a separate channel themselves, and we also have Channel 25. So my question from you is, if we do this for this organization, which is a very worthy organization, a 501(c)(3), are we going to be able to distinguish this organization from other ones that are going to show up in here and say, we're a worthy organization, we're also 501(c)(3), and we want to be on Channel 6 from now on?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, recasting your question, it's whether or not we open a limited forum into a more of an open or public forum in the use of that. Number one, as I understand, and Mr. McFall can correct me on the policy is for the use of Channel 6 for government purposes, not specifically city, but Mr. McFall can correct me, I believe it's government purposes. And if this is construed as a nonprofit for the schools, there's an argument that that's for government purposes. And so that we can certainly have a strong argument that we're not opening the door to an open public forum. And even if we can, as a public agency, we do have the ability as the controller of Channel 6 to limit the type of, I hate to use the word speech, but limit the type of programming on Channel 6. So unless I take a look at the policy and have it in front of me, and the policy specifically limits it, I couldn't tell you whether it would run afoul of the policy, other than that I recall it's for government purposes, not specifically strictly city.
That's my main concern, because we have several other organizations that are also, like, for example, Friends of Glendale Library. They're also 501(c)(3). They're Friends of Glendale Library, which is Glendale Library. It's a government thing.
Right.
So if they do a program, would we put it on Channel 6?
I think the council has the option to allow a program like that to go on Channel 6.
Okay, so all of these things can come to us one at a time, so we'll make that decision.
They can. And again, I didn't read the report to indicate it's going on Channel 6 as well. I think maybe the implication is that it is.
What report says
it says rebroadcasting.
What Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilmember Yusefian, there were two factors that we looked at. The first was exactly as Scott had expressed, and in fact we consulted with the Attorney's Office from the nature of the content of it, going, would this be appropriate content? And we were provided the same explanation as Mr. Howard has provided. Secondly, it was also that it is a co-sponsored event. If another very worthy 501 approached us and wanted to air it, we would do two things. The first, we would determine if that was an item, an event that was being co-sponsored by the city. If the Glendale Educational Foundation had just approached the city council, the city, to air a program on Channel 6 without co-sponsorship, our policy would not permit that. We wouldn't permit that. In this case, they have asked for co-sponsorship in accordance with the special events policy that we brought to council a few weeks ago. Any co-sponsorship requests we bring to city council along with the conditions that are being requested. In this case, the condition being to air it on Channel 6 for broader coverage as a item of general community interest, this special event, and then also for the co-sponsorship.
So it is consistent with the policy that was adopted recently?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Turbert.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just one last comment, because I think Mr. Yusefian's concern is a very valid one. We often have groups that would like to utilize Channel 6 just because it gets more viewership, a little more notoriety. In this case, as I mentioned to Mr. Yusefian, there's a very strong connection between this foundation and its sole source of its benefit, which is the school district. In much the same way that Friends of the Library benefits entirely the library, but you do have a very strong government connection there with our colleague in local government, which is the school district. So I think on that
that basis alone, it's justified and doesn't necessarily set a precedence for every 501c3 that might have an interest.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that we don't end up having legal issues later on with other 501c3s coming to us and saying, geez, you're allowing one group and you're not allowing us, and there is an issue under the Fourth Amendment equal. I just don't want to get, that was one main thing. But if it's inconsistent with the policy we've done, then I have no problem.
Consistent with the policy, it's also consistent with the First Amendment.
Okay.
Good
answers.
I want to clear up, have we set the fee structure and everything, the categories, or is that coming back again?
Coming back.
Yes, that's coming back to you.
Because I have 2 or 3 groups that I'm passing on to you,
Right.
wants to waive fee structures for
And
their events.
actually, just a quick update, you gave us direction on the categories. You didn't give us direction on the fees or the discounts, so that whole component has to come back to you again.
Yeah, well, I'm giving you the headache
The tough part has to come back to you again.
of asking to waive fees, and I'm certainly not going to do it in a vacuum. Okay, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Yusefian,
Aye.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. And what is next, please?
Next is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
First speaker is Artie Kasakian.
Start the time.
How many minutes, Mr. Mayor, for this gentleman?
5 minutes, like everybody else. Don't abuse it.
I know this is a little unorthodox for people viewing at home, but I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast Committee and urge all our Glendalians and my fellow residents in joining us for the 44th Annual Prayer Breakfast, which will be held at the Glendale Hilton Hotel this Thursday, March 8th, 2007. And the keynote speaker this year is a very well-known sportscaster, Tommy Hawkins. Most recently, he was Vice President of Communications for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've heard he's a wonderful speaker. And, of course, also attending our event will be our Mayor, Dave Weaver, and Master of Ceremonies, former Mayor, Larry Zarian. Doors are going to open at 6 a.m. Breakfast will be served at 6:30 a.m. Program, I'm told, will begin promptly at 7 a.m. So plenty of time for people to attend, then go to work, or perhaps take their kids to school. Individual tickets are $18. Seniors are 65 and up will have a discount at $16. Parking with validation is also available. And for anyone seeking more information, they can call 818-416-0775. Again, that number is 818-416-0775. And again, this is an ecumenical event. All denominations are represented. A lot of church and clergy will participate, and it's something that has traditionally brought the community together. And I urge my fellow Glendalians who are interested in attending and calling the number that I read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because you can't buy tickets at the door, is that correct, Artie? You can or you cannot?
I don't know if I'm not certain about that, Councilmember Najarian, but I can find out.
To be safe.
But to be safe, because it has been sold out in the past, we urge people to call ahead of time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Herbert Milano, followed by Alan Freeman.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Weaver, members of the City Council, city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. It is a special day when we can commemorate Arbor Day and those who advocate for the greening of America. Heaven knows that here in Glendale we need to preserve that very precious resource. But today we need to support those who nurture the little sprouts that we hand over to have be on their care. The teachers who give our little sprouts, our little children, their bright future. We need to help the greening of our teachers. Somehow that sentiment is not shared by all. In today's news press, we found a previous mayor, Mr. Carl Raggio, lambasting some of us for being present during a demonstration by the teachers. Somehow our teachers don't seem to matter to all of us, but I think that we have a significant disparity in the city. In the city of Glendale, we have hundreds and hundreds of employees who earn over $100,000 a year, 6 figures. Yet, in our school district, we have hundreds of teachers who cannot afford to live in the city where they teach. I think that disparity needs to be addressed, and it is up to our city council to come up with innovative, creative solutions to resolve at least some of that disparity. I believe that that disparity can be resolved by creating affordable housing for our teachers. Now, this is an idea that I presented to Council before. I presented it to Housing Authority before. This is where all of you are as well present. And I believe that some of the ideas that have been presented to you before could work quite well. One of those ideas is the condominium conversion. I originally saw a similar idea from a Mr. Kazazian, who wanted to sell the units to his tenants. Unfortunately, he ran into some difficulties. But imagine having that type of concept and reserving at least a couple of units for teachers. We would actually have thousands of affordable units for teachers to live and reside and be part of this community along with the opportunities they have to help our children grow. We need to initiate this process. It seems that my appeals have gone nowhere. It is my hope that we'll take a look at our need to come to the aid of our teachers and give them our full support. Thank you very much.
Alan Freeman, followed by Dr. Richard Espiritu.
Mayor Weaver and council members, good evening. My name is Alan Freeman, and I am president of the Glendale Teachers Association, and I am speaking on behalf of over 1,400 of my colleagues. I am here today, along with some of my colleagues, in an attempt to educate you to the problems we are having in negotiations with the Glendale Unified School District. And just to clarify, I know that the council has no official responsibility when it comes to this matter. But as leaders of our community, I did feel it important to educate you and to the recent negotiations taking place. Because this year there's a tremendous amount of new ongoing revenue that's coming into the school district. Over $12 million of ongoing unrestricted revenues, which is more than we have seen in recent years. In October, we started negotiations, and the GTA in good faith presented 23 proposals to help improve the working conditions for teachers. In addition to our proposals was our understanding of the GUSD budget, which was confirmed by the GUSD leadership at the bargaining table in negotiation sessions. And what the GUSD confirmed was that over the last 3 years, they have budgeted 85% to go towards the compensation of the employees in the Glendale School District. This is a 3-year average, as you can see, from 03-04 to 05-06. The problem that we have is that when you look at the monies actually spent, it is 80%. At the end of the year, when we look at how much money was spent, it's only 80%. So the budgeting is 85% on the employees, but only 80% is being spent. And this is obviously a concern for us because really the GUSD should spend what they budget on their employees. And also, on February 6th, Ron Bennett, President and CEO of School Services of California, which is a consultant, the financial consultant to the school district, said, and I quote, "Focus on employee compensation because it is 85% of your budget," which the GTA agrees with, and we are looking for this change to occur in the actual expenditures that take place. If you look at the next chart, you'll notice that each year in June, the school district has to report a preliminary budget to the County of Los Angeles Office of Education. And you'll notice that the budget that's being reported is in blue, and when we find the actual end of the year and how much revenue was coming into the school district, it's in red, which is surprising to us that each year approximately $20 million, give or take, is coming in more than what's actually budgeted by the school district. And this chart is something that we're still researching and look forward to continue working on how we can be so far off on the original budgets. Finally, I'd like to show you the last chart, which is something that is really devastating to the teachers here in Glendale. And this is a comparison of the Consumer Price Index, commonly referred to as inflation, over the last 5 years in comparison with the salary schedule increases we have received. You'll notice that over the last 5 years, CPI has gone up over 16%. However, our salary schedules have only increased 7%. And that 9% difference in spending power at the end of each month is really having a tough time for the teachers and the employees of the Glendale School District. Mayor Weaver, members of the council, let me share that we as teachers didn't get into this profession to make the big bucks. We knew that going in when we entered this profession. But we feel it is more than fair to keep up with inflation, and we feel that it is more than fair for the GUSD to follow their own budget. And if you're going to budget 85%, let's spend 85%. We are proud of the work we do for the citizens and the community of Glendale, and we will continue to bargain in good faith and seek to reach a fair contract. I thank you and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Quintero.
Where does the money go, the budgeted money for salaries?
It's spent in other areas in the district's budget. It could be anything from textbooks to football fields to other areas.
Or administrative salaries?
I don't have a figure on that with me, so I wouldn't want to send a quote out.
Okay.
And you're still at the negotiation process with the district?
We just came from the school board, and the district made it pretty clear that impasse was imminent, which was a concern for us. We would like to sit at the table and continue to negotiate in good faith, and we'll see where that takes us at the next session, which I believe is next week.
Well, someone who's come from a educational board on the college, I know that you should never give up hope, and I urge both sides to continue to sit down and work at it and go over the facts, and through hard work and the sleeves rolled up, oftentimes there's a resolution. So I wish you and the district good luck in resolving this. When you talk impasse, I'm not sure if you're talking the S word, but my kids go to Glendale schools, and I would have to bring them to work with me, and it'd be a bad situation. And they are learning, getting a great education from everyone there. So please keep at it.
We're proud of the work we do. Thank you.
We normally vowed to do city council comments after the oral communications, but since the door's been opened, I opened it with a question, but my comment is that the money should go to instructors and personnel in direct contact with students. That's where the money belongs, in your organization and all educational organizations. So hopefully the school district board members will feel that's where the priority should be placed.
Thank you.
Mr. Youssef, yeah.
One question.
Sure.
How far are you apart?
Currently, the Glendale School District has offered a 5.1 salary schedule increase, and we are asking for a 12.64% salary schedule increase. And just to clarify why those numbers on our part is if you remember that chart, that 85%, our projection is that if the school district were to allocate 85% like they budgeted in the last 3 years, that number would be 12.64%. You take that into account, all the new incoming revenue this year to public schools that Sacramento and the governor appropriated, and we feel it's a good time for that to occur.
And is the difference because at 85%, it's 100% of people have been hired, and maybe you have some attrition and some vacancies? Could that explain that difference?
Well, I think our bargaining team is still searching for those answers, and that's why I shared that in good faith we'd like to continue to work and really investigate what we need to do.
That is very typical, though. You budget for everybody being there, and then people are not there, they quit or retired, so there always is that margin difference. But I'm a product of the Glendale school system from Glen Oaks on up through. I know none of you taught me. And I gather this is not St. Pat's celebration, so Now just continue negotiating. It'll get resolved. It always does. Wish you the best. You got some good arguments.
Thank you.
Okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
You may leave the council chambers if you wish.
Thank you.
Go have a good dinner. With that, Dr. Richard Espiritu, and you can make your way up here, followed by Stephen DePiro.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver, City Council, and staff. My name is Dr. Richard Espiritu. Mr. Mayor, as everybody knows, my daughter-in-law passed away on February the 2nd, cancer of the brain and the spine. I know I'm a little early on this, but the Cheesecake Factory, where she was the regional manager for the Cheesecake Factory, is going to sponsor Relay for Life. I know we're early, but they're going to have T-shirts, and they're starting to order T-shirts for my daughter-in-law with her name on it. And I talked with Mr. Kasakian, and I'm going to email him the form. So if anybody would like to, staff, City Council, like to purchase them, he has the purchase orders. Besides which, at the Relay for Life, I intend to field the team myself for the Relay for Life. The reason why I'm here tonight is to talk about two interesting cases. One is a tort. This was a jury verdict done on June 21st, 2006. This was a case that arose out of a raised sidewalk that resulted in a lady falling down and breaking her ankle. Case number is EC40 or 040416. This was held at the L.A. Superior Court right across the street. The lady was awarded $90,000, $322.30. The name of the attorney who took care of this case was Binder and Associates. This is an interesting thing because this kind of mirrors Barden versus Sacramento. There's another case that was held decided on April 3rd, 2003. This was a California Supreme Court case. Case number S099339. This applies to Government Code 830 and 835, which is a very interesting code because it applies to crosswalks going to bus stops. This happens to be very similar to Barden versus Sacramento. The name of the lady was Darlene Bonanno. She was awarded $1,591,130,000 because of this case. She was also mentally disabled, worked for a company called Motel 6, which was also sued by the by the Department of Justice because they did not comply with ADA. She was a housekeeper, and due to the accident, she became a paraplegic. This brings me to my point. I pointed out several times in the past my fears and other people's fears regarding San Fernando Road and the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. I've also talked about audible signals. I contacted the Department of Justice here in the state of California to see does audible signals apply to Government Code 830 and 835. And we're trying to get some answers on that from the AG's office. My other question is regarding this particular case about the slip and fall. I wish we would do something about the hazards here in the city of Glendale regarding raised sidewalks and different issues. The other thing is several people in the past have brought up the issue about audible signals. One of the individuals who had put in an application for the brand trolley, a gentleman by the name of Hans Corby, who also put in an application, also happens to have had a study done for the federal government regarding audible signals at railroad crossings and at street crossings. There is a lot of information on the Internet. I hope people have time to take a look at this. And we need to start looking at the Americans with a disability. Yes, I may be extending this further than day-to-day things, but I don't want to see what happens in the future. I thank you for your time and consideration, and have a great evening.
Steve DePiero, followed by Leon Mayer.
Thank you very much, Mayor Weaver and City Council. My name is Steve DePiero. I'm a new resident, actually, here in Glendale, and I'm here to make you aware of an organization that I'm part of. We want to invite you to something, too, and my daughter and Steve Mortan also we'll keep it all within the 5 minutes, and you have cards from each of us. But I'm part of an organization called the Soka Gakkai International, and it's a lay Buddhist organization with approximately 12 million members in over 190 territories and countries. And our activities promote peace, culture, and education, and are based on the long-standing traditions of Buddhist humanism. And a brief background, here in the city of Glendale, we have approximately 150 members, active members, and in our association we are always encouraged to support the betterment of our community through individual reformation or change. And we're going to be having a significant festival at the city of Glendale. I guess it's Community College. We wanted to make you aware of it and tell you just a little bit more about it. It's actually sponsored by the youth division in our organization. So my daughter's going to tell you a little bit more.
Hi, my name is Caroline DePiero. I teach at Glendale Community College with a non-credit department, outreach to the community. And thank you. That's my daughter Nala, and I've lived in Glendale for 9 years. So we're going to have this day of peace, culture, and education, and we wanted the community, and especially you members of the council, to know about it. We have kids from all over the surrounding area of Glendale and the city of Glendale working every Sunday to create exhibits and to practice for performances so that we can reach out to the community and share with the community that we're an organization that's here to promote peace, but also to help and support the community in any way that we can. We also want the community to know what Buddhism is about. Buddhism is a philosophy of life that is very embracing and kind and peace-oriented. And so we just want you to know that we're here in the community and that we support the community any way we can, and that this exhibit is on March 31st from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Community College, and anybody's welcome to come. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mayor, and also the City Council members. So this is just to wrap up this portion.
Okay, I was just thinking different cards turned in, but you're all together on one.
Yep. So thank you. So with that, all of you guys have packets that explain a little bit about our organization and the depth and breadth of our movement. So again, this event's going to be happening from 1 to 4 p.m. at Glendale Community College on March 31st, and we really especially like to invite all of you to attend, and also like to invite anybody from the community to attend as well. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to make this presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Leon, Mayor. Oh, Carolyn DePiero Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver, members of the council, Mr. Starbird, and staff. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Glendale Public Library and as chairman of the Author, Artist, and Friends series. We have an event coming up on March 26th, which is a Monday, 7 o'clock at the Glendale Central Library Auditorium. Our author is Sherwin Newland. He's a Pulitzer Prize nominee and national award winner. His book is The Art of Aging, a Doctor's Prescription for Well-Being. And he is going to share his book with us about the art of aging. He's already written a book called How to Die, and this is a book that was got him the award for the National Book Award and a Pulitzer Prize nomination. So when he brings us the age of the art of aging, he will discuss with us the challenges and the rewards of advancing years. He will talk about the fact that aging is a gradual process, and that in the process of aging, we go through stages, and that it's not a disease, it's an art, the art of aging. And there's rewards in aging that are surprisingly a blessing to us. So those of you who are over 45, you don't have to bring your licenses with you. Come to the library on March 26th when you'll meet Sherwin Newland. Now, Sherwin Newland has been a doctor for 40 years. He's a medical doctor, a graduate of Yale University. He's on the staff. He's a clinical professor of surgery at Yale University. And he's already authored books not only of how to die, but how to live. The biographies of Leonardo da Vinci and Maimonides, and the Lost in America. So he's a famous author, and we urge you to come and see him and talk to him on March 26th. Now, last time I was here, I talked briefly about our March 21st event, and our March 21st event is Monkey Girl, a book by Edward Humes, and the title of the book is Monkey Girl, Evolution, Education, and Religion, the Struggle for the America's Soul. And this is a book that deals with the debate about evolution and the epic court trial that went on in Dover, Pennsylvania last year that was spawned by the continuing debate about evolution and the teaching of intelligent design in the schools. Now, the book will deal with the fact that the people of America want to have a certain beliefs. They have various beliefs on what should be taught in the schools, what should be taught to their children, and they have beliefs about the meaning of life and the origin of life. So this is the story, the frontline story from Edward Humes, Monkey Girl. He attended the trial in Dover, Pennsylvania. He called it the second coming of the monkey trial of 1925, the famous Tennessee Scopes trial. And he'll tell you from both sides what was going on in the trial and the issues involved. We think they're very interesting. We've invited a lot of groups and a lot of people to the event, and of course you can find out more by coming to the library or getting flyers from me or wherever they're at. So come to the library on March 21st to find out more about Monkey Girl, and certainly if you're over 45, you're going to miss a treat if you don't come to see Sherwin Newland talking about the art of aging. Thank you very much.
That'll be the art of aging gracefully. Okay, thank you, Liam. Margaret Hammond, followed by Steve Borton, I think it is.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council and staff and the audience out there. Some of the people I've seen earlier this morning up at the Adobe, and we sure could have used that beautiful big old tree for shade this morning, couldn't we, that went down. That was what used to keep it shaded and cool up there. Sad to lose it.
Or a nice hat.
Or a nice hat. Well, it doesn't seem to do much. I still get burned. My name is Margaret Hammond, and I'm involved in many things. One of the things I have to tell you about that's fun before I get into the meat of the thing, I went with a young lady from Neighborhood Services down to the city of L.A., to the city hall down there, and more or less representing our city from the Clean and Beautiful Committee. And we had told the people that from L.A., when we met them up in Bakersfield, that we would support them and help them any way we could with their programs. With our city is considered to be exceptional with some of our programs. The litter, for instance, the litter butt, don't litter butts or whatever, and our great graffiti, and also our shopping cart law that was passed. And many cities come when we're there. I mean, they're from all over California, and some from back east, and want to know, gee, what great programs, and how are we put them into effect, and so forth. And Los Angeles just recently joined the Keep America Beautiful. And we had told them, yeah, we'll come down and support you, and, they were doing a big cleanup. Anyway, it was very exciting, and I hadn't been down L.A. for a long time, and managed to get a front row standing room on the railing watching everything, and it was really terrific. I mean, the schools had an all-city band, and when they played, it was America the Beautiful and a lot of the things that oh boy, this is wonderful. Anyway, it was a little bit late starting, and I was like, leaning on this railing because my knee was hurting me. And but at any rate, it was because, of course, Hillary Clinton was going to be there. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. And so I stood on the railing, and when it was over, finally everybody was moving away, and I'm still standing holding onto the railing waiting for people to move out. All of a sudden, it was very funny because I stand there like with this, with my hand leaning over the rail, and all of a sudden here were this lady with these beautiful blue eyes who walked up to me and started shaking my hand and said, hello, how do you do? And I'm like, wow, because I had not expected it all. And, of course, then the mayor, Villarosa, came down and also was right behind her and shook my hand and said, how do you do? And I, Your Honor, whatnot. And he said, thanks for something about L.A. And I said, oh, no, I'm representing the city of Glendale. And he turned back and looked at me and said, oh, well, thank you. And off he went. So it was really kind of exciting. Hadn't planned on that at all. And as I said, our programs are taken quite seriously that we have instituted in Glendale. A lot of people really look to us, and we've won a lot of awards. I'm sure if you go into neighborhood services, there's walls of the awards that we've won even this year. Now, to get on to that, some of the signs around town, the political signs, have been placed in the right-of-way. For instance, down in Adams Square, where all the money was spent to put in all those silly little islands that were supposed to stop traffic, every single one of them had signs there illegally. And I'm not saying who it was. That's not the idea. That would be giving him more publicity. There were 5 signs within 10 or 15 feet. And so I complained to Neighborhood Services, and they did take care of it today. They went in and took them down. And what I found out is it costs $15 each sign that's placed illegally on those right-of-ways. That's the right-of-way. So anybody that does it, and the Neighborhood Services, they keep track of who and what, will be getting a bill for $15 for each sign that's placed on the right-of-way illegally.
Margaret, what number are you calling?
Neighborhood Services?
Yeah, what number?
548-3700.
Okay, just so the public knows.
Oh, okay. I'm like, am I calling the wrong number? It did take a couple of days to get them down, but at least they were down. Now, my favorite subject, the banquet halls. Saturday night was another part of my exciting day, and I went around with a friend of mine, and we took pictures of the barbecues, particularly the one in the alley between Kenwood and Louise that everybody says they don't know about, right? Okay. I'm going to pass these pictures around, numbered from 1 to 6. These are my only copies. The rest I have given to Neighborhood Services, and they are part of the thing. Now, I just want you to look at this and say, nobody can say, well, they don't know that they're there. Okay? Thank you very much. It was quite exciting taking the pictures because they were not happy with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Morton, followed by David Myers. Is it Morton? Mark Tan? No? On Ethel? No?
He might have been that gentleman with the...
Was that the
I
gentleman?
believe that was the gentleman speaking on the Buddhist Day of Culture and Peace.
Okay, they were all separated. Didn't know. Okay, David Myers, followed by Bill Nickel.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver, council, staff, audience. My name is David Myers. Later this evening, there will be a discussion regarding the existing tree ordinance that we have here in Glendale. As chairman of Friends of Mountain Oaks, let me read you something here. We are dedicated to the preservation of mountain oaks and surrounding open space areas through education. Yeah. So tonight, I want to do a little education. For those of you unfamiliar with the origin of Glendale's tree ordinance, allow me to enlighten you. Like most laws and ordinances, it was in response to an event exactly 25 years ago, today, plus 10 days, 25 years. I'd like to read an entry from someone's diary who witnessed everything that led up to that tree ordinance. This entry is dated March 10th, 1982. Mountain oaks butchered. Magnificent stand of live oaks and stately sycamores whacked down. On Saturday, February 20th, 1982, weekend wood butchers armed with chainsaws decimated the area. All day long, they indiscriminately dropped one tree after another. I counted 63 huge oaks, 15 giant sycamores downed. Shocked with disbelief, deeply hurt and incensed, the local residents sought assistance and authority to stop the devastation. The police, the fire department, wilderness preservation clubs, and the former owner of the property were called, but to no avail. It was Saturday, and everything was closed. The trees kept crashing down. The inept Sawyers insisted they were duly authorized by the new out-of-towners. Some admitted to being firewood dealers. The chopping was a frenzy to the extent that twice the falling trees hung heavily upon the telephone lines. Their explanation was that the land must be first cleared for development. 25 years. Some things haven't changed. This is one incident in the history of La Crescenta's oldest charm spot. A one-time high-grade granite quarry operated here. Later, the old lodge and the swimming pool was constructed. Dates now lost to locals. History slips away with the wind. Many early movie greats trekked to the old lodge for a hayride and a hideaway weekend. There have been devastating winds and floods through the years. Originally county property, now it is Glendale. It's a good thing. Probably would be gone. Well, 25 years has gone by. We're still fighting for that area. Some things don't change. But more importantly, I wanted to say thank you to the people who actually stopped the events of that day. 25 years. It's a little late. I wasn't in the area, but 25 years ago, you put yourself in harm's way. See, they made phone calls to the police, to the LA County Sheriff, to the fire department. There was no laws on the books. Nothing to actually legally stop these people. So what the residents did is they actually put themselves in harm's way. And the police actually just stopped the whole melee. And first thing next week, the city of Glendale enacted the tree ordinance. And that's the second thing I wanted to say. Thank you to the city of Glendale for protecting the majestic trees that we all live underneath. Lastly, I want to say thank you to the people who have supported us and supported this area and continue to. It's areas like this that make cities like Glendale what they are, magical places. They are great places to live. We need to protect everything that is that magical in our lives. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Next speaker, Bill Nickel.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. I'm Bill Nickel, resident of the city. And I was coming down this evening to bring kudos to the events relative to the tree ordinance. But on my way to the forum, I drove by a new house under construction, and it reminded me of something else that's going on. And now that you're close to finishing with the tree ordinance, I have something that you can take on as a new project. And that is the fences. May 31st, 2005, City Council reopened the discussion on prohibitions against walls, fences, etc. And all code enforcement of existing fences ceased at that time per order of this board. It's almost 2 years now, and nothing has changed since then except that new fences are being built and nobody's paying any attention. Now, I understand that you can't cover the whole city, you being staff, etc., can't cover the whole city and see everything that's going on, but a house that's in construction is being visited quite frequently, I would hope, by inspectors from the city, and if a fence is being erected on that is illegal, I would certainly think that they might sort of see it and perhaps do something about it. Anyway, that's your new project, and I appreciate your attention.
Mr. Nickel, if you know the address, would you give that to staff? You don't need to say on TV. Get it to staff. We'll check it out.
I can tell you where it is, yeah.
Okay, you can tell it to Mr. McFall there or anybody you'd like. Well, you want to get an address, check it. Okay, that completes oral communications. And now we will go to City Council and staff comments. Are there any staff comments? I have a couple. One, there should be a slide to put up. There's going to be an All-Armenian memorial tribute to Ron Dink, who was murdered in Turkey a while back. Hello, Mr. Madukian.
Here.
He was murdered for speaking out and stating that there was a genocide, and that obviously he made enemies and he was murdered. So this, on March the 11th, Sunday, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Glendale Civic Auditorium, there will be a memorial tribute to him. So I was asked to pass the word on to the community if anyone would like to attend. The other item I'd like, and I see Mr. Milano's not here, so I hope he watches the tape over on it. Last night at a forum, I had made a comment. One of the things this city is looking at is we hired a consultant to go out and look at what I would consider kind of a dysfunctional system operating within, Mr. Milano's here now, between the permitting department, code enforcement, building and safety, and planning. And then it jogged my mind to ask our city manager what the status of that report was, because we hadn't received it yet. Mr. Milano stated that the report was done, it was in the planning department, and he had read it. I checked with Mr. Starber this morning, and this council has never seen that report. It has been taken back by the consultant twice. City staff is still not satisfied with what our consultant has done. And when it is done, that report would be coming to City Council. So I just want to correct it. It never has got to the City Council yet, therefore I was not wrong last night. With that, if there's no other staff comments, Mr. Ajayan?
You have several items. Is that going to be on now or later?
What?
Okay. I know all of you. Okay. Well, I'll give you a little intro. I know all of you missed the presence of Mr. Yusefian and myself last week.
No, not at all. We were done before 7 p.m.
Yeah, we heard. You guys did it in 55 minutes.
Darn right.
Well, I think it'd be fair to say that we bring a depth to the discussion. But
That's a good way of putting it.
We were, along with Assistant Manager Bob McFall and...
Snowbound.
No, it wasn't snowing. Steve Zern, our Public Works Director, as well as Captain Ray Eady from our Police Department, on our lobbying trip to Washington, D.C. And we're hoping that we have some pictures that prove we were in Washington.
Of the weather?
By the way, everybody else in the world was also there.
That looks like a postcard to me, but anyway.
Yeah, those are postcards. You can buy them at any dime store.
I just want to let you know Mr. McFall was taking all of those pictures.
The photography is too good.
And we met with many legislative aides, and there we are outside.
Well, that could have been taken in a hallway
outside Dianne Feinstein's office.
And we met in the hallways a lot of times.
We were pushing the agenda that we had voted on several weeks ago. Much of it was in regard to the ISIS interoperability communication system, transportation issues. We talked about our pool, our crossing on the railroad, our Bright Start program. There we are with Congressman Schiff. And it was quite a rigorous 2 days. And I've got to say, traveling with Mr. Yusefian is a treat. You never have to worry about any awkward pauses in the conversation. In fact, you don't have to worry about any pauses in the conversation at all. We were on the go every time we go into a congressional office or we went to also the Commerce Department. We were on. We only had about 10 minutes to give our pitch, make it interesting, make it look to them as though we were excited and not tired at the end of an 8-hour day. And we are hoping that we will see some fruits of our labors in the months to come. They're going through the appropriations process. I think we made a good impression, but to be honest, there were many other groups out there, but we gave it our best shot, didn't we, Mr. Yusefian?
Sure did. We sure did. There were many, many groups out there. There was a legislative week, and there were a lot of kids that had come in from other countries, actually, to visit the White House and the senators. I think that when we went to meet Senator Feinstein, there must have been at least 60 people standing outside, and most of the conference rooms were full. We met several times in hallways, and once in a cafeteria in front of a cash machine. We were hoping maybe we can get some cash out of it, but it didn't come out. But that's where most of our meetings took place. We gave our best, and I think we will get some good results from some of the departments we met. The other thing that was interesting to find out is most of the staffers that we had met in the past, they're gone. All new people, so you walk in and you say, "Hi, I'm from Glendale to talk about ISIS." They go, "And what is that?" So you have to start all over again. That's part of the reason it's important for us to go back there every so often, because there's such a huge turnover. The interesting story to this whole thing is that all the majority leaders are trying to learn how to be in the minority, and all the minority leaders are trying to learn how to be in the majority. And it's a whole different task. Majority leaders are firing people. Minority leaders are trying to find people to hire. So it's a mess for a while. Also, Mr. Mayor, one other thing is we forgot under appointments, we would like to put the name of
Art Simonian
on the
DRB.
On the DRB. There has been some issues with DRB1. Apparently, once in a while, a couple of members do not come due to health reasons, and there's not a quorum, and a whole bunch of projects get stacked up. And so...
And I just have a few other comments, and then I'll be through, Mr. Mayor. And it's amazing to see that our country literally is being run by the group of 20-something graduates fresh out of the university or grad school, and they're earning, Lord knows, $35,000 a year.
Or less.
On a shoestring budget. And these are the folks that are evaluating our comments and our programs and ultimately making the recommendation to the decision makers in Congress. So,
But they're great people. Remember, this is televised. They're great people.
So they're watching in Washington.
Exactly. It's on the internet.
And, Mr. Mayor, I will be again in Washington, D.C. next week lobbying for transportation issues. So if you'll
For the
excuse me.
MTA, or
For the MTA, but I'm going to get make sure our Glendale issues are put forward as
bring
well.
back the dollars and we'll all be happy.
And speaking of the MTA, I want to clear up some confusion about something that happened last week. It was good news for Glendale, but it's a little complicated, and I think it is a good expose on the inner workings of political muscle. This is regarding the allocation of money, our bond monies, Prop 1B, that came down from Sacramento. Let me give you a little bit of background. Late last year, after the bond passed, the MTA voted on a series of projects that we on the MTA board wanted to be completed in Los Angeles for congestion mitigation. Included on that list was carpool lanes from the 5 freeway, starting at the 134 right here in our back door, going all the way up to the 170, the Hollywood freeway, where the 5 hits the 170. It's a pretty good stretch of freeway, and it's always congested, and we thought carpool lanes would be very well received there. Well, Caltrans staff, it turned out, who is one of the big players there, did not feel that those carpool lanes were a priority. They felt they had other needs throughout the state. After we heard that, we had a meeting with the Caltrans district director, we meaning Larry Zarian on the California Transportation Commission, Congressman Esteban Torres, and myself. And we tried to urge this district director to include the carpool lanes on his list of projects that he would go for. We were not very successful in that. He said, no, I just don't have the money to do it. The next thing that happened was the California Transportation Commission staff, which is the CTC, are the ones that make the final call on where the money goes. Lo and behold, they included the $73 million that we were seeking for our carpool lanes on the 5. And we were pretty happy. I didn't want to jump up and down because, in the world of politics, things change like the wind. Well, unfortunately, when our 5 freeway was funded, the 405 freeway was not. And that sent the folks on the west side, if there's any west siders here, I apologize, in a frenzy. And they really circled the wagons and pulled in all their political muscle, including the mayor of Los Angeles, Congressman Berman, Congressman Waxman, Assemblyman Mike Fuhrer, many of their heavy hitters, to go lobbying. And their intent on lobbying was to get money for the 405. And you probably read about that, and there was a lot of publicity, and that was part of their coordinated attack. Well, what happened was, it worked, unfortunately, at the expense of the 5 freeway. When the 405 money came through, they completely X'd out our 5 freeway carpool lanes. And I was pretty devastated about that. The CTC was going to meet the next day, so there wasn't time for us to do any lobbying. And, no offense to everyone that lives here, but we don't have a huge amount of muscle in our little corridor compared to the folks on the west side. They're the real big hitters. But we had one last hope, and that last hope was our own Larry Zarian, who's sitting on the CTC. And I know he got a few frantic calls from some of us, and I gave him several while I was in Washington. Larry took the ball, accepted the challenge, and I don't know how he did it, but through arm twisting and coercion and influencing the rest of his colleagues on the CTC, lo and behold, the $73 million for our carpool lanes appeared, was voted on, and now is going to be funded. So it's a complicated process. We're working on many of these projects as time goes on, but it's just an example of how people are fighting over the bond money that we voted for, and it's good to have friends in high places. That's all. That's the moral of the story, and I think we owe a word of thanks to Larry Zarian. I don't know if he's watching, but thank you, Larry. Keep up the good work for us.
Well, I hope he's watching, because I got a call from Larry. Hey, he explained more of what you did just now, but because I was quoted in the paper, I was with Mayor Villagrosa, and I serve on the Economic Alliance Executive Board, and naturally we're concerned about transportation matters all over this region. I think we got 12% of the funds, and we generate about 28% of the voters that help pass those bond issues. So the mayor of L.A. and mayors of other cities were championing the cause of getting our fair share down here, and I was quoted on that. At the time, I did not know what Larry had been up to up there. And Larry, if you are watching, you certainly do get the credit. It's nice to have a Glendale person up there. It really does. I don't know if it's the squeaky wheel theory or who you know or what, but San Fernando Valley has ended up making out pretty good this time. It's a good year.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's his ability to create consensus, because the vote was not a split vote, it was a unanimous vote. So we got a unanimous vote to get that $73 million from all of the CTC members.
Larry must have twisted.
Very much.
Larry must have twisted a lot of arms to get a consensus. That's okay, too.
I didn't say that.
He doesn't twist arms.
Well, let's not go into what he does.
Talks him into it.
He talks him into it.
He's good at negotiating.
Oh, we know that.
Well,
we
absolutely.
sat on council with him for a
He has special talents.
He has special talents. That's correct. Be on the 22nd, Larry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on from the next item. 7, I guess?
Fine. You guys do the consent?
Yeah. We moved.
Mr. Mayor and Council, at 7 is adoption of ordinances. At 7A is ordinance authorizing the execution of an amended and restated development agreement by and between the City of Glendale and the Americana at Brand, LLC, successor in interest to Crusoe Affiliated Holdings, LLC. This was offered on February 27, 2007 by Councilmember Manukian.
Do we have any speakers?
No.
Okay, I'll move 7A.
Second.
Wait. I do. I'm sorry. 1. Ken Howard. Sorry. Didn't look at the pile quick enough.
I'm easy to miss.
Not really. Trojan colors stand out good.
What I know about this project is simply what I read in the papers, and I follow something this significant with glee, and also with knowing that something important is coming to the city of Glendale. Before you adopt this ordinance, I would like to ask us a few questions that I was unable to answer for myself when I read that this was going to be on the agenda. And again, this is my first time looking at this particular ordinance. When I read the ordinance, I picked up one bullet point. How many minutes, Mr. Mayor?
3.
3, thank you. I picked up one bullet point, and the bullet point was this. That there has been an assignment and assumption agreement between Crusoe Affiliated Holdings, LLC, in assigning all of its rights, obligations, title, and interest to the development agreements to the America at Brand, LLC. My question is simply, why? What is going on? What does...
Okay, can I ask this? You've got some questions.
Yes.
Last week we had a discussion on this.
Okay.
So I'll extend your time, but I'd just like Mrs. Starbird to tell you in essence what this ordinance is doing. And then you can continue on. Starbird, would you state this is a cleanup matter of things we've done previously?
Well, I think the gentleman's question is getting to a bigger question, which is the nature of the disposition development agreement and the Americana project. In a nutshell, the matter before you here this evening is merely implementing changes to what had been a previously approved development agreement with Caruso and modifications to that you had previously approved, as well as updates on that original agreement.
Just want you to know that.
I'm not sure that gets to what his bigger, broader
From there, you
question
can
is.
go on, and
Thank
we'll
you
give
very
you the
much.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, Artie.
My question that I was unable to answer through the ordinance, and also trying to quickly call people at City Hall and at the various departments, is what is Caruso's Affiliated Holdings LLC? What is his affiliation with the new LLC? If there is any, I'd like to know if that is something that you are all aware of. Is Caruso Affiliated Holdings LLC being completely released from the development agreements with the City of Glendale? That's another question I wanted to ask, is to know if you are aware that this is going to happen. What does the city know about the financial strength of this new LLC, and why wasn't the new LLC added with the existing Caruso Affiliated Holdings LLC on the agreements, as opposed to releasing Caruso? The Grove. I was marketed by Caruso in his efforts when he was battling the Galleria, like everyone else, about why it's so important for him to do this development. But when he did the Grove, he did it under the Caruso Affiliated. That is the LLC that did that project. There was no other LLC that turned into a developer that was changed midstream. What it appears to be happening is that construction started, and a new developer has been asked to step in, and the old one is stepping out. In banking circles, in the financial world, that's a major red flag. And so my concern is that as long as you've addressed that question to your satisfaction, that it's not going to be an issue to the City of Glendale, then that's fine. But truly, in the large money center banks, if a developer came in midstream, most banks would say, why? What's the significance of this? And a lot of them would say, no, we're not going to change it. You're going to finish this project all the way through. Those are questions I was unable to answer. I apologize for not having a lot of background on this, but it jumped out. All the other little bullet points were fine. I think that the city appears to have worked very hard on this. It just seems that this is a red flag that is in my background, is something that I would catch up on. So that's what I wanted to bring to you. The last thing I wanted to mention to you, there was a speaker that spoke. His name was Bill Nickel. You may not know this, but he is one of the best bankers and former Glendale College professors that you had. And he's sitting right there. He doesn't know that I'm here. I haven't seen him in 25 years. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Why don't you go out for a drink after the council meeting? Is anybody here can answer that question?
City attorney?
LLCs and stuff that... Mr. Howard, did you want to say something first?
I'm sorry.
Well, we're going to answer it.
The other Mr. Howard,
No, Mr. Lansfame can certainly explain whether or not there's been a full release. I can tell you the promissory notes are still in play. The obligations are still Caruso's obligations. Not that uncommon, and particularly in real estate transactions, for somebody to form an LLC to but not only construct but also hold title to and own the project. The limited liability corporation, it really doesn't significantly or substantively change any of the agreements that we have or any of the obligations that Caruso himself has through his original company. And Mr. Lansfame could elaborate on that in further detail.
Briefly.
Mr. Mayor, it's exactly as you said, and all of those things were contemplated in both agreements, the disposition and development agreement and in the development agreement itself. The assignment and assumption has been reviewed by the city attorney's office, as well as our financial consultant, Kaiser Marston Associates. Final note is the guarantee, the completion guarantee is still in place with the original entity. This, for all intents and purposes, is the entity that you enter into the agreement with. They are the major shareholders of that LLC. Thank you.
Is the developer being changed at any point, as the gentleman brought up? Is there a new developer coming in?
No.
It's the same
The developer
entity?
is still the same. It's been assigned to a new entity, but that entity is made up of the same group that was before. It's as Mr. Howard said.
Name.
Okay?
I got a question. When LLCs are created, you have sometimes you have members that are part owners of that corporation. On this LLC, are the people the same? And is their percentages and their interest still the same?
For all intents and purposes, yes, Mr. Caruso is a majority holder of this assigned LLC, and that is what the agreements called for when we allowed that to happen. Again, the completion guarantees are still in place, so if the developer, whatever that entity is, doesn't complete, there's the completion guarantee that is underwritten by Mr. Caruso's assets.
You didn't answer my question. What my question was, on the previous one, where Caruso affiliated, was Mr. Caruso a 51%, 60%, 80%? What was his ownership there? And if that ownership was, let's say, 80%, on this one, is he also 80%? Or is he reduced his liability by being only 51% and then brought in other partners in? That's what I want to know.
I don't know the exact percentages, but he has not reduced his ownership in either Caruso affiliated, and he has more than 50% in this new LLC. I can't give you exact percentages.
No, I might add, which he's obligated to under our original agreement.
He has to be the majority shareholder.
Yeah, he has to be a majority shareholder. He continues to be a majority shareholder.
That's what you obligated him under the agreement.
And how long ago was this LLC created?
That, again, I don't know, but it was part of, as Mr. Howard suggested, a routine real estate formation for the purpose of building and holding this property.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I will not vote on this item, and I'm removing my second until the staff comes back with some information. And I'm sorry about that. I just, in my own private life, I'm going through several LLCs and corporations, and I'm finding out that, you better know some of those information. That is extremely, extremely important. And I've had some issues with some people trying to change a corporation into LLC to another LLC, and next thing you know, their liabilities start changing, and they leave, and you end up holding the bag. So before I go there, and there may be absolutely nothing, and everything is completely kosher, but I'm very uncomfortable when I ask questions and staff tells me I don't know, so I will wait until you know.
Mr. Mnuchin.
Are there any new members that were not part of the original agreement that are part of the new LLC?
Again, Caruso may have additional investors in it that we are not aware of. They're not obligated to disclose that to us. I will check with...
Was that part of the DDA, too, that he can have additional members? Or
Yes, as long as he holds 51%.
So I think the answer is yes, so long as he continues to hold a majority share of any limited corporation that he creates. So he was given the latitude to bring on other investors as long as he held a majority.
Okay, that's all I need to know. I don't need to know who they are.
Okay. The second, Mr. Ajay.
Along those lines, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Howard, by its nature, an LLC is a limited liability company.
Mm-hmm.
And the assets of the individual members are generally not at stake.
That's correct.
So whether Mr. Caruso is a member or J. Paul Getty is a member, in the event of a catastrophic liability incident, be it, let's say, a collapse of our parking structure or something in that nature, the assets of the company are primary and foremost at risk, and not necessarily those individuals that hold membership.
In isolate... Okay, I'm sorry.
So I think these are the questions that are percolating from council, and if we could perhaps get a little clarity on that. Obviously, we want to be sure that should something happen, that certainly Caruso-affiliated LLC is and I haven't seen any spreadsheets, but is a much stronger position than this newly formed Americana at Brand. And we want to make sure that should something happen, that there be adequate protection for the city in the event of such an incident.
We can certainly provide you with the provisions of the original DA and DDA, which indicate and demonstrate that the financial assurances, completion guarantee, promissory notes, and the full faith, credit, and backing of the financial wherewithal of Caruso is still in play. In isolation, you're correct, in isolation, just a single LLC we're going to be looking at just their assets. But in this circumstance, we have a development agreement that holds everyone else responsible through the chain, through our agreements and promissory notes and completion guarantees. But we can certainly provide, if there's any reticence, we can provide those paragraphs from those documents to you certainly by next week.
And my question on that is, as Mr. Najarian said, a Caruso-affiliated LLC is probably, it's a much stronger company because it probably owns several other entities, several other assets, and so it has more strength. My worry is at this point is if this LLC, let's say, something happens and limited liabilities, I'm mostly concerned about the liability part of it. And there is a liability. If they're not able to perform or something happens, are we able to go back to the Caruso affiliated and say, you know what, the brand, Americana and Brand LLC has failed and is not able to perform. Now we're coming after you, Caruso affiliated LLC, to make sure that this one is being taken care of. I mean, is the Caruso affiliated LLC type of a guarantor that this brand affiliated brand Americana Brand LLC won't?
We actually, as I understand it, have even stronger assurances of completion of this project. There are numerous default provisions that allow us to go back into where the assets really are.
Okay, so we will be able to go back.
And that's all in the original agreement. We didn't abrogate any of the guarantees that we had in the original agreement. This is really a transfer in name only to the Americana Brand LLC, which is not an uncommon practice for real estate. But all the guarantees are still in place. And again, we can certainly provide you with the copies of the original DA, which outlines all of those.
The city's
this has been
protection
reviewed by
doesn't
Ms. Dan Meiden in my office. It's been reviewed by our financial consultants to ensure that this is truly just a change in name only, and all the guarantees for the completion, all the financial backing and strength that the council relied on and the redevelopment agency relied on initially are still in place.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second. The second has
was
been
withdrawn.
Let me finish. The second was withdrawn.
I will second it now.
Oh, you were your
now
second.
That the questions are answered.
Good. Mr.
Well,
Quintero.
while we're at it, let's find out from if Mr. Caruso is not willing to provide it, let's find out from the Department of Corporations who else is on this Americana Brand LLC.
We can go into the Secretary of State's portal and pull up the information that is public filing. It may not have, usually doesn't have lists of shareholders. It has the names of officers and directors and an agent for service of process, but we're not going to find any of the shareholders. If it's a publicly traded entity, that we can find out through other means, but through the Secretary of State, we're not going to be able to find out names.
Well, I suppose somebody could ask him.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we'll ask him. Let's not imply that he won't provide it to us. I don't know that we've asked him for it.
Maybe he doesn't
Our
just want
concern
it
is
all
that
over
he
the
still
public.
has 51%. So we'll ask.
At least.
51%. We'll ask. That's information you'd like.
There's no further discussion. Roll call.
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Yusefian?
Aye.
Mayor Weaver?
Aye. Next, please.
8 is action items. At 8A is Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services regarding car park basketball court replacement. At 8A1 is resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing amendment to an existing contract with Vito Samarzic, Inc. At 8A2 is resolution appropriating $80,000.
Does anybody need a report?
I just have, not a full report, I just have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Chapman, I believe this is the park that a gentleman had come to complain about some noise issues
The
previously.
location of the court.
Mayor Weaver, council members, yes, it is.
And is there anything in this redesign that that we can do to help mitigate that issue?
Well, we looked at actually even relocating to another part of the park, but it would impact even more people. So this is really the best location for the basketball court.
Trees maybe, or... Please do your, let me put it this way.
We'll do our
Please
best to mitigate it.
Incorporate mitigation on the interface.
Some buffering
between
trees
that
if
park
we
and
can.
the residents.
Hedging or something, if it's possible, but this is a resurfacing of the court.
It's a resurfacing. It was asphalt. It became dangerous. We took it out, and we're going to replace it with concrete.
Okay.
And it'll be ADA compliant as well. At this point, we're going to raise it up to where the curb is and make it ADA compliant.
Is there a motion?
I'll move 81 and 2.
No.
Second.
And if I have one, if you don't speak up, forever hold your peace. Nope, I don't see one. Okay. Roll call, please.
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Yusefian?
Aye.
Mayor Weaver?
Aye. Next, please.
AP is Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services, Director of Public Works regarding changes to the existing indigenous tree ordinance, and at AP1 is ordinance for introduction.
And for my colleague's purpose, I do have cards.
We got cards, okay.
Before anybody introduces the ordinance.
Go ahead. Read the card. We had, Mayor Weaver, council members, we had...
We need to read this? Has this been read? Yes. I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chapton.
We had given you a PowerPoint presentation, some slides. We added a few slides in there. We had some questions this afternoon or this morning. There are just some basic slides on what we see in terms of pruning.
Throw the other one out?
Yeah, go ahead and throw the other one out. They're just minor slides that we added to this. And we can start, what I want to do is introduce three of the principals in this. Bill McKinley, who's our arborist, Dan Hargrove, and Teresa Proskowitz, who will help with this presentation. But I'll start it off and briefly recap where we've been in terms of the history of the tree ordinance, the importance of the trees for folks who hadn't seen the last presentation, and also some of the proposed changes, and then I'll hand that off to Bill McKinley. I think what you'll find is, Coco, you can go to the next slide, but again, as the gentleman stated in public comment section, this was an emergency ordinance that was passed in 1982 because of the bulldozing of the oaks and sycamores in the Mountain Oaks Estates area. But because it was an emergency ordinance, it really left some holes in terms of how we enforce the ordinance. And so what this does is really it makes it congruent with ISA standards, some of the standards in the industry in terms of ordinance and pruning and protection, tree protection. Again, you all know this, but for the sake of the audience, the value of trees has been documented by the National Arbor Day Foundation. They do increase property value by 15 to 20%. It's a documented savings of 58% on air conditioning in summer and about 40% in winter heating. And trees do mitigate noise. They provide economic, social, psychological benefits. As folks who were there this morning at the Arbor Day event know, we talked about the beauty and aesthetics of trees, the increased property value, the natural therapeutic element of trees, and then their function as a shade shelter, as an ecology for the improvement of water and air, and they create microclimates and support wildlife. Again, the purpose of this revised ordinance really was to make it congruent with the current urban forest and tree preservation protection standards, and then just to codify those standards here so that when people do open up this ordinance, they know exactly what they're getting. In the old ordinance, they didn't know that, and they were subject to interpretation by our arborists and maybe theirs. Councilman, do you have a question?
I'm going to go ahead, George. I'll hold everything.
Okay. Just some of the major revisions or amendments to this is what we're doing is we're proposing to move the administration of the indigenous tree ordinance to the Public Works Department, and to us that's the best possible customer service related type of move because as you know, before they were going to Public Works, then they would come to Parks and Recs, and they'd have to jump back and forth.
And they've seen that.
Right. So to us, this is just good customer service. The other element is all the transactions will take place at the permit center. So again, they don't have to go to the yards, to our office, or anywhere else. And it does establish non-fee permits and fee-based permits for this ordinance. Also, it does change. There's a definition. It defines protected indigenous trees, and it includes the native California trees, which measure 6 inches or more at DBH, which is diameter breast height, which is about 54 inches at this point. And the 3 trees are the oak, and there are 4 separate oaks. There's the live oak, there's the scrub oak, valley oak, and the mesa oak, and the sycamore and the bay. And here's some just pictures for people to understand what these trees look like.
Again?
If you can go back, Coco.
Species in that?
Oh, we only have one species of oak
And which
in
one
this
is that?
picture. Bill?
Live oak.
That's California
Live oak, okay. The next picture is a sycamore, and this is, you may know this tree, I'm sure Bob McFall knows which one. This is a landmark tree in Verdugo Park. It's famous. It's a wonderful tree. And this is a bay laurel.
And what are the other 2 kinds of oaks included in here?
Mesa oak, there's a scrub oak, mesa oak, and the valley oak.
Okay, I know what a valley oak looks like. What does a mesa oak leaf look like?
It's an evergreen oak tree. It's a
Wait, you can't
You got to
talk
come up.
there.
Okay.
Do you want them to come up?
You need those answers now, Mr. Yusefian, or should we get...
Oh, well, there's the leaves. I don't know. I wish that leaves were there so people would know what they're looking at, so they don't go out there and cut the tree not knowing what they're
Your name
cutting.
for the record, and then give us a nice quick answer.
For the record, William McKinley, Park Services Manager. The Mesa oak, or otherwise known as the Engelmann oak, is an oak tree that's found in native range up to Pasadena and potentially parts of northern Glendale. And we have a number of them growing throughout the city on private property, perhaps as private landscape trees. It is an endangered tree, so because it is rare and endangered, it's worthy, and it is a native tree of California, it's worthy of consideration for preservation. To answer your question about the foliage, it's an elongated, oblong, bluish green color or texture. Not all that dissimilar from the California live oak, although the margin or the perimeter of the leaf is smooth. There's no teeth on it typically. And we have a number of them growing, I'm proud to say, primarily in Dunsmore Park, reintroduced into that facility. And would invite you to come up and take a look. Be happy to give you a tour. Show you
Thank you.
Beautiful tree.
And the valley oak, what does it look like? Is that the one that we planted for Mr. Jensen?
Yes, it is. That is the tree that graces our Casa de Vida San Rafael.
Right. And those are native to California?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Continue.
Okay, the old ordinance, I think, talked about measuring 36 inches above the ground. The new ordinance will be at diameter breast height, which is 54 inches. And it is the International Society of Arboriculture and the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisals and other professional organizations. There was another issue when we talked last time about the indigenous tree ordinance, and that was the multi-trunk trees. And the ordinance now does state that we're going to be measuring 3 inches or more at DBH for multi-trunk trees. And we had a discussion this morning. They won't be 1 inch, so you won't have 10 1-inch branches or whatever you may want to call them. So it will be 3 inches or more as a protected indigenous tree.
Is that how it's written here?
That's how it's written in the new ordinance, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although it is at 6 inches. We have the trunks that add up to 6 inches. So you could have 2 or 3 inches, which would be a protected indigenous tree. And I know you had some issues about that. You wanted to, I think you talked about maybe making it at 8 inches.
Because we used to have that as 8 inches.
It was 8 inches for all protected trees in the old ordinance. But
lower trunk height.
Bob is right, at 34 inches instead of 54, so it
but
is a lower trunk height.
even at that, my issue was, if you look at the old ordinance, I looked at the old ordinance and the new ordinance. The old ordinance basically didn't distinguish between a multi-trunk or a single trunk. It basically said 8 inches. So you measure it at the bottom, it's 8 inches. And so now we're going to count them at 54 inches height. And if you have, based on your new ordinance, if you have 3 inches, which is almost a little bit bigger than this, 3 inches, that considers to be protected at this point, while before it was a little bit more. I have no problem with the 6 inches for the regular one because you're measuring it at a higher area. So if you probably went down to 36, you will end up being at the 8-inch mark. So it's pretty much the same. But on the multi-trunks, there were 2 concerns I had. One, that we don't go out there and start counting 8 1-inch or 12 3/4 inches and say, oh, well, just all of a sudden this is a tree because it's just a bush.
Right.
And the second of all is to design it in such fashion that some of these people who have some of these trees in their backyards be able to maybe design these oak trees to maybe keep 2 or 3 of these things and be able to prune out the rest so they can actually end up having a nice multi-trunk tree out of it. And that's why I was thinking that on a multi-trunk, I'd like to see 8 inch at least. So this way you have 3 pieces instead of just 2 little dinky things.
Let's come back to all this. I'd like to get through the presentation.
We can come back to that, yeah, and I think the arborists do have an opinion on that, and if you don't mind, I'd like for them to at least give you the...
Yeah,
that's fine.
When you're done with your presentation and
those were the only 2 issues I had.
Yeah, because my understanding also is the scrub oak are really important in hillsides as well. They retain hillside a lot better than some of the other oaks because of the nature of the size of their tree. Okay, again, here's just an example of a scrub oak with multiple trunks, and they don't get real big in terms of the trunks. So I think you may not see anything above 8 inches in terms of the trunks, individual trunks. The permit again, the ordinance does establish permits. There are 3 levels. There's no permit for anything that's 10% or less than the foliage. If you are going to trim a branch or foliage, if it's 10% or less than what the height at the DBH is at 54 inches, then there's no need for a permit. If it's anything above that, then there is a no-cost permit required for pruning, and that's just so that we can educate people about what to do and what not to do and have an arborist oversee the pruning so they don't damage the tree or kill the tree. And then there is, it will establish a fee in the ordinance for permits for removal or for permits for plan check, and that will go to the Public Works Department.
No cost permit, where do they get that?
They would get that again at the permit center. It would all be centralized at the permit center. It wouldn't be with our department. If they come to us, we would refer them back to the permit center and Public Works Department.
They will educate.
Yes. Yeah. And Dan Hargrove and Teresa will talk about the outreach program that they anticipate doing.
They'll have brochures, pictures, everything. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I can't wait to see you enforce this.
Okay, again, the pruning, before it wasn't codified, now it does codify the pruning with the ANSI standards, the ANSI 300 standards. And just as I said, pruning of branches less than 1 inch will not require a permit, so people, if they want to trim their trees, can do that. Although anything above that would require a permit. So if it's more than 10% of the foliage, it will require a no-fee permit.
Which one is it, 1 inch or 10%?
Well, you can prune
Is it one
up to
or the
1
other,
inch.
or one and the other?
No, it's both, because one talks about 10% of it. If the tree is, let's say, 15 inches in diameter, then you've got 1.5 inches. You shouldn't be trimming anything more than 1.5 inches, 10% of that measurement at breast height. But if it's, let's say, if it's a 6-inch tree, it is protected. But the branch may be an inch. It may, 10% would be half of an inch, and that.
And the homeowner's going to go out there with a tape measure and make sure.
So minimum 1 inch.
Right.
And 10% of the
Anything
trunk.
above that, right. But in no instance can they do any type of pruning for more than 6 inches in a branch, so anything above 6 inches as well.
Mr. Starbird.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what this section is actually getting to, though.
No.
This is related to the total amount of the canopy that you can trim. You can trim all the 1-inch branches you want, but on that previous slide, you still can't trim more than 10% of the total canopy without a
And I
permit.
want to see the first person go out and tell me what 10% of an oak tree is.
I think I skipped the next slide we'll talk about. Then this is it, yeah. Anything that measures 6 inches or greater in diameter would need a permit. I'd like to call up Bill McKinley right now to talk about some of the pruning violations that he's seen and the importance of this. And we'll go through these real quickly, and then Bill will turn it over to Teresa for the outreach component.
Thank you, George. Again, for the record, William McKinley, Park Services Manager. I'd like to talk a little bit about pruning violations and acts that damage trees. Although the original ordinance was specifically created to protect trees from being removed, it also prohibits any act which will cause indigenous trees to die, including but not limited to acts which would inflict damage upon root systems, bark, or other parts of the tree by fire, application of toxic substances, equipment, or machinery, or by changing the natural grade of the land, including filling around the trunk. Topping, which you can see an example of, is indiscriminate height or crown reduction of the tree. Hat racking actually reduces the length of the limbs and creates a stubbed off branches resembling a hat or a coat rack. Lion's tailing is a form of pruning where 2/3 or more of the interior foliage is removed, leaving a small puff of foliage around the terminal, thus resembling a lion's tail. Excessive thinning or foliage removal actually starves and prevents it from making the sugar and starch which it needs for normal growth. Excessive foliage removal can weaken and stress the tree and can actually kill the tree. The ANSI A300 pruning standards specify and define tree industry standards for horticultural correct tree pruning. The above stated pruning examples do not meet the duty of standard of care as defined by the ANSI A300 standards. Section 12.44030 states that no indigenous tree growing within the city limits may be cut, pruned, or cut down, removed, or moved unless and until a permit has been obtained from the director. Section 12.44.40 requires the applications pertaining to cutting down, removing, or moving, or encroaching upon the drip line of a protected indigenous tree to have a written report submitted by a qualified tree expert, that is to say, an ISA certified arborist or registered consulting arborist and other types of qualified arborists. Applicants seeking grading and building permits, including but not limited to architects, engineers, contractors, and developers, are required to submit accurate plans showing the exact location of each protected indigenous tree on the subject property and all protected indigenous trees on adjoining properties whose trunks or branches are located 20 feet outside the subject property line. The tree's diameter breast height and the drip line, as measured at a point at 4 points on the tree, north, south, east, and west, shall accurately be plotted and represented on the plans. This is an important element. Next slide. The drip line, the construction work that encroaches within 5 feet of the drip line of any protected tree will also require a permit. Construction work that encroaches within the drip line is a very critical area. That's why it's so important to have a permit. Next slide. Grading and construction and property development. We recommend revising Section 12.44.050B and updating the specific language in the Indigenous Tree Ordinance to reflect the latest information and technology concerning tree protection during grading and construction and property development. This gives the director the authority to issue stop work notices for any work or construction which may damage or threaten the tree, damage on any protected tree, and or where preservation measures have been violated. And there would be a fee for construction and grading permits. These are just some examples of potential acts that damage trees. such things as construction of building footings, retaining walls, fences, utilities, gas lines, electric, water, irrigation, landscape lighting. The specific act of trenching results in significant damage to the roots, particularly by heavy equipment such as what's pictured here in this diagram, in this photograph. Thanks. Additional potential acts, grading, such things as cutting or excavating and removing soil, or filling, where we're actually adding soil within the root zone, within the drip line of the trees, can be extremely destructive, and it can actually result in the death of the trees. Such things as concrete, paint, stucco, mortar, and cement, and even excess soil, as we just got through talking about, and foreign materials and debris deposited and dumped around and within the drip line or the protection zone of the trees can have an extremely negative effect on the trees and can actually kill the trees. Oftentimes, this type of damage to the trees doesn't show up right away. It can take years for it to actually manifest itself. And oftentimes, by that time, the developer and the contractors have all moved on, and the homeowner wonders, why is their tree sick? Next slide. Potential acts, storage versus soil compaction. Such things as vehicles, heavy equipment, and building materials. I was told by a building official that it is quite common practice to store building materials such as lumber and roof tiles under trees because the workers don't want to handle the hot materials, so that the trees actually cool the building materials. Unfortunately, that type of activity can actually be extremely destructive, and it can actually drive out all the oxygen in the soil and thus create a harmful environment for the roots. Next slide. We're going to talk about replacement and value assessment of trees. In the current ordinance, the section mentioned addresses the replacement of the removed or cut down tree or trees with specimen trees of the species and quantity commensurate with the assessed value of the tree or trees to be cut down or removed. This section is modified to define the specific method of determining the value of the trees using the latest and current industry standards. Next slide. At this point, I would like to ask Teresa Proskowitz, our urban forester, to come up and speak a little bit about
I have a question first.
Yes.
Can we, on a protected tree like that, when you go out, do you stake it or fence it the distance away so it's supposedly preserved?
Yes. We have as part of plan review, we assign what we call mitigation measures to each project that has identified protected trees either on the subject property or immediately adjacent to the subject property where the root system or branches may be impacted. And thus, as part of those mitigation measures, we have identified that they're required to have protective fencing around the trees, and they must call for an inspection of the protective fencing before demolition or grading or any work occurs on the subject property.
And you know as well as I that contractors have gone out, cut those fences down, and cut the trees down when your back was turned. Right? You know that for a fact, just like I do. So what do we do?
Where these practices have been discovered, where it's been reported either by a building official, by a city employee, or by a concerned resident, it's staff's duty at that point then to do an investigation and document what has occurred, and then we would refer the matter both to the building official and also to the city attorney's office for potential prosecution of violation.
If they cut the tree down, it'd be more than potential prosecution. It would be prosecution, which led me to what fees. As I mentioned this morning at Arbor Day, you cut down a 12-inch diameter or bigger tree. How long did it take to grow there? You can't put a 25-gallon new oak in, or 2 or 3 of them, to compensate for what took the good Lord 10, 20 years to grow, right?
That's absolutely correct. We all know that crimes
It's going
do
to
occur.
be more than 20 years. 12 inch? Or
40, 50. Some of these oaks are 200 or 300 years old.
Sure. It's the purpose of this ordinance to provide staff with a tool to be able to administer and enforce.
Saying I think that the penalty ought to fit the crime. There's a lot of cash penalty for doing something. Obviously, when it's fenced off and they still go in, take the fence down and cut it down, that is deliberate. That's deliberate, and they ought to be prosecuted.
We agree, and there are measures built into this ordinance. City attorney has reviewed this and has, I believe, done an excellent job in providing with proper enforcement.
Good.
Let me also, Mayor Weaver, members of the council, if you look at the ordinance under section 1244-100, it does talk about when permit is denied, or when they do remove a tree or cut down a tree, and there's a penalty, a civil penalty, in the amount equal to 3 times the value of the tree, based on how the arborist will assess the value, in addition to criminal prosecution.
Yes, I like the criminal prosecution of it, because the profit to be made by taking down a tree that is standing in the way of something you want to construct, like, we'll do it, and then we'll write it afterwards. Once the tree's gone, what are you going to do?
Right.
So there's too much of that.
Well, and it's covered. There's a section 1244-90A that does talk about criminal prosecution. And
Jail time would be great.
And further down, it does talk about 3 times the value of the assessed tree. So there is a substantial penalty for.
I'd like a little more detail there. In terms of criminal prosecution, it's a misdemeanor. So that's 6 months max, or 1 year?
6 months in jail or a $1,000 fine, or both, for each count that we can file. And depending upon the nature and extent of what the act was, we could possibly file more than 1 count. I think the importance of this ordinance is that criminal prosecution is preserved, and the ordinance makes clear that that is not mutually exclusive, so that criminal prosecution can occur with its both deterrent and, depending upon whether a court's willing to impose a jail sentence, that's still preserved, along with making it very clear that we have the administrative ability to assess 3 times the value of the tree. And in some of the cases I've seen from Mr. McKinley, we're talking 5 figures, significant amount of money.
Okay,
So you've got
that was
jail
my
sentence,
next question.
fine, and the assessment of
If
3
you
times
have
the
a
cost.
prototype, any of the oaks that you mentioned, or sycamore that's 80 years old and possibly 35, 40 feet high, what is the price of that particular tree?
A substantial mature tree would range, in good condition, would start probably at around $20,000 and work its way up. It's not unusual for large heritage oak trees, which may be in the neighborhood of 300 or 400 years old, in good condition, to be assessed or appraised at over $75,000 individually.
Okay, that's good. How about a situation, never mind the developer on the hillside, how about a homeowner that's tired of the oak tree, wants to put in a pool, etc., decides to just hack that oak tree to death, so to speak, just does a bizarre job of pruning, etc.? How do we go about fining or establishing the value of that tree?
Well, there is a method as defined in the ordinance and through the ISA, whereby the tree's value and the damage to the tree can actually be assessed. So if they have not cut the whole tree down, and there's a chance that the tree may recover, then most likely the destruction or the damage to the tree would be the actual value, and subject to, depending on the situation, up to 3 times the value as written.
So it can be measured and appropriate.
Absolutely.
And I think, Councilman Quintero, I think what wasn't also mentioned is the ordinance does also specify any equipment that the department may need to replace that. If it was to be replanted somewhere else, they would have to pay for that as well, and any other ancillary costs associated with replacement of that tree.
In those cases where you're removing a tree so that you can increase the square footage of a house substantially, increasing the value of a potential house from $600,000 to $1.2 million, $75,000 is a drop in the bucket to that person. Because ultimately they're going to get the house they wanted, and that little old stupid tree was standing in the way. So they'll pay the $75,000 and move on. I mean, I don't know how we're ever going to stop it, because that is occurring, and it's going to continue to occur, and you both know it.
I believe that that issue can be actually addressed through the geographic information system and our planning department, because I'm sure that our planning department reviews these projects and compares the property in terms of what's being proposed and perhaps what's already on the city's.
No doubt about that. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But the weekend developer who cuts it down and we go out Monday and assess, they'll pay that. The tree's gone. Now we're going to tell them, well, you can't build there because a tree used to be there? No. We'll say, okay, you pay the fee and now you can build double the size of your house. We've had those problems on the hillsides. We're going to have in other locations too. Where you can double your money on a development, you're not going to care about paying $75,000 fine. That's nothing. That's just my own opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you for your...
There's a criminal element to it as well, criminal prosecution.
Huh?
There is an element of criminal prosecution at this point.
That's why I brought that up.
Yeah.
And I hope that's enforced.
And you did say 3 times the value of the tree if it's illegally cut, right?
3 times the value of the tree is the assessment that staff can impose. That is in addition to criminal prosecution. Understand that while we can file a case in court, ultimately the sentencing decision is up to a judge. And we can certainly request a full 6 months incarceration. But if a judge feels it's worthy of probation, that's something we don't have control over.
Just one other question. You see all these pruning companies go around cutting trees, creating what you just showed as bad examples. Are they subject to getting permitting through the city? I mean, a licensing agreement to come into the city and cut trees? Or does the neighbor have to run out and says, oh my gosh, look what's happening? I mean,
Currently, as it stands now, gardeners and people in the tree industry are exempt, is my understanding, from being required to have any kind of business license in order to operate in the city.
Really?
That is.
You don't have business license in Glendale.
Oh, no, business license, but...
That is something that the council would have to
Licensed
consider.
Because I've seen them go out, and I've seen them do just what you say they shouldn't do. So how do you regulate that? If they're operating in the city, like taxi cabs and stuff, we regulate in the city. Should we be considering any company who wants to come in here and trim trees to get a license or something?
As it stands now, the first line of defense and the best tool we have is public education and information. The law says that a business, and the state law defines what a business is. A business in the tree care industry is required to have a state contractor's license and also workers' compensation insurance. If they advertise themselves as a tree company and they don't have a contractor's license, they're subject to fines by the state.
Okay, but every city will have different regulations.
I think it's a good idea, Mayor Weaver, to actually have them register. And also, as they come in and register... I think we have to, because Glendale
has different regulations.
Give them the information.
Look at our fire regulations.
But look, my experience has been it's not the tree cutters, it's the homeowner.
It is the homeowner's responsibility.
Tell them to cut it down.
The less they cut, the less they have to haul away. So they're just following instructions from the homeowner.
I think we need more teeth in there. Something myself. Mr. Yosefian?
I have a question. Sometimes I wonder. On section 1244-90, you talk about removal without permit penalties. It has 3 sections to that. There's one section that talks about replacement costs and so on and so forth, civil penalties and all that stuff, and what it's going to cost to do that. And then section C, it says, in addition to the subsection A of this section, upon determination by the director that the replacement tree is necessary and required, an amount shall also be assessed upon such person equal to the assessment cost of the installation and equipment necessary to replace such tree. Such cost shall not exceed 100. Such cost shall not exceed 100% of the value of such tree pursuant to the section 1240.170, but it is in no event shall it be less than $100. Could somebody explain that to me in English? I mean, what? How? You're going to replace this, what? You're going to, somebody cut down a 25-inch tree. How are you going to replace this thing with $100?
You won't. No, it won't be.
I mean, for your equipment.
Not
I mean,
less than.
what do you get for that $100? I mean,
$100 is a minimum.
I understand that. But why is there even a minimum?
I believe, well, this was...
If you're putting down 100% of the value of such pursuant to the section, you should just stop right there. There's no reason to put a minimum there. You just stop there. Have you ever had an experience that's been less than $100?
Actually, you could have an instance where a tree was perhaps even dead, or whatever, or had one green leaf on it, virtually dead. Okay, and so it virtually has no value, but because perhaps the person didn't get a permit, or the issue is sort of gray in nature, it's not clear cut, you want to make sure that they will plant a tree as mitigation for it. It's possible to acquire trees, for example, a 15-gallon size tree, which would wholesale for around $35, $40. And so that would be within that $100
But if a tree was dead and they needed to replace another tree, why are we worried about that section? Why don't we tell the homeowner, you go buy the tree and this is what it is, you plant it, we're going to come in and check it out?
Yeah, this is without a permit. This is without a permit.
So you have to pull a permit to plant a tree?
No, this is removal of the tree without a permit.
Right. But what he's saying is, the scenario is, the tree is almost dead, it has one leaf on it, so they cut it out without a permit.
Right.
So he went out there, he checked it out, and he realized that the tree was going to die anyway, so there was no value to it. So the value is zero. So if the value is zero, it was a dead tree, so you didn't really do any crime, you just basically buried a dead tree.
Actually, you did commit a crime.
The crime was you did not pull a permit.
Correct.
Okay. So if you did not pull a permit, what is the crime? What do you pay? What is the fine?
Well,
I went down and cut down an oak tree that did not have any leaves on it. It was dead. It was dead as a doornail. Actually, the only thing that was occupying that oak tree were the birds. So what is the penalty? That's what I'm trying to understand. And I don't want to go overkill in here. I mean, if it's dead, it's dead. So what does it matter? He pulled a permit or not?
Your smaller trees, for example, might be, especially if they're not in 100% condition, they might fall within the realm of that fee. This was established by our legal counsel, so I can't speak to the exact
that explains why it's so convoluted.
figure.
Okay.
But it's certainly...
I understand it perfectly. It's all your territory. You can understand it, I'm fine with it.
It's certainly reasonable to have limits, and I think that's what they were attempting to do.
We were attempting to establish a floor. Mr. Early was attempting to establish a floor so that if the costs were less, you wouldn't be able to get away with anything less than $100.
So he just deflected it to
For
Mr. Early.
the cost of the equipment to replace the tree. You still have the other two sections that come into play. It could be, if for example, it got referred to our office and using your factual scenario, the tree would appear to be dead, we may not prosecute. because a tree was dead, even though they didn't have a permit. But then you look at the B section, for example.
But why are we using our equipment? This is what I'm trying to understand.
Our equipment. Well, the tree could be cut on a parkway, for example.
Okay, if this is in case the tree is in city property.
That could be one scenario, and I'd have to turn to Mr. McKinley to indicate if there are other
that
scenarios.
I can understand. If it's private property, are you going to tell him, go out there and plant 4 trees, and I'm going to come and check it out, make sure they plant a tree. So you have no equipment, you have nothing. But if they went out there and cut the tree that was in the city parkway or somewhere else, then now that's city property. That's a whole different ballgame. We're not going to tell him to plant the tree in our own property. We're going to plant our own tree on our property. Am I understanding this correct? I'm just trying to make sense out of this.
That would be one option if it was on city property. However, Teresa might want to speak on that, but I believe that they, in some cases, have actually required the violator to have their contractor remove and install a new tree, and they typically would administer, if I understand, they would administer the installation.
Mr. Starbird.
Well, let's come back to I think, to the basis of this section, which deals with people's trees on their own property and removing it without a permit. In the situation where the tree has little or no value for whatever reason, it's dead, it's got one leaf, the minimum penalty is $100. So maybe all you did wrong was not get a permit. You're going to be assessed $100.
You know, sometimes
that assumes the director has made a determination that a replacement tree is necessary.
Sometimes
in the context of that section.
Sometimes I think this city overregulates its people, its residents. You know, permits all over the place. And people are going to go out and it's a dead tree. They're going to take it out and get their hands slapped on private property for a dead tree. I don't know. I'd be tempted to do it. But
once it's gone, who's going to determine if it's a dead tree or not? So that's one of the problems.
Well, this is going to be a humdinger of an ordinance by the time we get it done.
Well, maybe we should take it.
Well, shall we go on?
And it's talking about equipment in here, and that's not what it's talking. It's not talking about your minimum penalty is for $100. It's talking about equal to the estimate cost of installation and the equipment necessary to replace such tree. So this is to go dig the hole, to plant the tree, the equipment you need to plant a tree. That's what I'm trying to understand. And if it's in our property, I can get it. Well, if it's in private property, I don't see why there needs to be a $100 charge for somebody planting his own tree.
Bill can talk about this a little bit more, Councilman Yousefian, but I know that we've had instances where they have cut a tree on their own private property, didn't have any more space for other trees, but decided to pay into the Urban Forest Fund for the value of the tree. Now, with that comes, we would have to plant a tree somewhere else of like value in the city. Okay. So there, I think, lies the equipment and the installation of the tree. So if you've got a small piece of property, you cut down a tree, now you have to pay for a specimen tree, same size. They would pay into the Urban Forest Fund, but it would have to cover more than just the price of the tree. It would have to also cover for the installation of it, which includes equipment.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me. Thank you very much. That's because he's not an attorney.
Mr. McFall?
Now I get it.
Mr. McFall?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I hate to be wading in, but what I read as the city attorney has provided here is this amount that they're talking about is not the cost of replacing the tree. This is an additional amount.
Right.
It's an additional
for the equipment.
Right. It isn't actually for equipment. This is an assessed. It's a penalty because it says upon determination by the director that a replacement tree is necessary and required. An amount also shall be assessed. So they've already determined that the owner has to replace the tree. He can do that under his own will. If he wants to hire a contractor, do it himself. We're not saying how much that has to be. The director would determine the size, type, and all, depending upon the circumstances of the tree that was removed without a permit. In addition to that, there shall also be an assessment of that individual of an amount that they have come up with a formula of equal to the estimated cost of installation equipment to replace such tree at a cost not less than 100% of the value or $100. The key word in there is also. So it says replacement tree and also be assessed. If that, I'm not sure if that was the intent, but that's what it says.
It is very badly written. I hate to say this, but whoever reads this thing gets more confused. You put 15 different things in there.
Okay. How about going on with the rest of the presentation? Then we got cards, and we can come back for council comments.
I thought council had comments already.
I kind of think we have.
And at this point, again, I'd like to turn the program over to Teresa Moskowitz, our urban forester.
Teresa?
Good evening, Mayor, the council, and the staff. I'm Teresa Prostevich, urban forester for Public Works. And as this lively discussion about this ordinance looks like very confusing, that's why we believe that establishing of the outreach program, it will be essential. And that outreach program is not only going to explain what is the purpose of this ordinance, but also the goal will be to increase the stewardship of Glendale's trees by bringing common arboriculture knowledge to the community, as well as the benefits our trees provide for every group, thus making more adaptable. And this ordinance, as we see driving through the street, that many other trees are also, like also Bill was showing, that they were hat-racked or butchered or tapped. Definitely there are many other trees. Educational component will be spilling over, and it will be very helpful. With this particular ordinance, however, we wanted to be more detailed, so we will be using, if you can have a next one, we wanted to use the local media. We wanted to use existing already outreach component, but we are looking for the local media, the channel, maybe even filming some of our staff doing certain things on trees, so it's more really visible and more understandable. Another big thing is the city website. Almost everybody these days uses computers, and we wanted to have a website that it will be in details explaining all of what we discussed here in the ordinance, and also arboriculture, some terminology and helpful contacts. Local press, handouts and brochures. Handouts and brochures we wanted to develop not only about the trees, we want to have an individual for each tree that is protected, but as well as we wanted to focus on the different groups. For example, schools and children and development and commerce and regular residents. So that program will encompass all of the explanation why we did the ordinance, what is the essence of the ordinance, and why we are doing, and what is the value actually of the trees that we wanted to protect. Other thing that we wanted to establish is meeting tree experts for questions and tree pruning demonstrations. We have a few already events in the city of Glendale, and we can be there at those events, or we can host individual event when we will have our forestry staff and arboriculture staff, that it will be on hand, available to answer all the questions, and also show hands-on situations. The other thing is that it's very important that website or person who people can speak alive, not only leaving a messages or via different medias, but really be able to talk to somebody that can be explainable. That's why also permit, we would like to require a permit for pruning, because that will be really very helpful. And as an urban forester, I'm receiving actually quite a few calls from the residents about their private trees, and that even we don't have any jurisdiction, but that really gives us opportunity to educate about the other things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if that concludes the presentation, we do have speakers that would like to say something. I've heard an earful already. So let's try these on precise first. Let's try 2 minutes. Stephanie Landergan, followed by Ken Howard.
Well, I planned on 3 minutes, so I'll go fast because you did cover some of what I was going to talk about. And I do have some handouts for the council. Thank you, Artie. Good evening, Mayor Weaver, council members. I'm Stephanie Landergan, Glendale resident. I'm also a landscape architect. I have reviewed the ordinance before you tonight, and I would say all in all, it is a huge improvement over the original emergency ordinance. I've worked closely. I came to the meeting that the Parks and Recreation Commission had, and I had taken the liberty to give them some suggestions. And I do support this ordinance. There are a few changes that I really think that we should address, some which you all have addressed this evening. One is section 12.44.030, and I gave you this so you might want to follow around in the ordinance with me, in which we talk about pruning. It's on page 2 of the revised ordinance, and it specifically states that in no event shall pruning be allowed for a branch that measures 6 inches or greater in diameter without a permit. I have provided you on the back page a 6-inch diameter circle, and if you want to think what 8 inches is, it's pretty much what this paper is. It's 8.5 by 11. But it also shows you 4 inches, and it shows you 3 inches. And I would like to recommend that the last sentence be changed to, for pruning branches that measure 3 inches or greater in diameter, a report prepared by a tree expert shall be submitted before issuance of a permit. And the reason I'm asking this is because a 3-inch branch on a 6-inch tree, which is what we're preserving now, is a substantial structural and often an aesthetic element of any tree. Trees are structural and they have form. May I continue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is tree expert, and we brought this up. The tree expert has greatly been enhanced, and I really compliment the department for looking further into it. But I do think it needs to specifically call out that any tree expert who performs pruning on any public or private property must also possess a valid C-27 contractor's license issued by the Contractor State Licensing Board of the State of California. And this is a bonded individual, and it should state that under tree expert. Now, the reason I think it should be in addition to it is there are consulting arborists who do not need a contractor's license because they come and consult. And they may tell you your tree is diseased, but if you are there to do the actual labor, the state law requires that if you do any work that exceeds $300, you are required to have a license, and this is the appropriate license to have. Lastly, I believe there's a typo on page 7, and there's also a typo on my sheet that I have given to you, so it is really section 12.44.90, and it's paragraph C, and I believe it should say, it says right now, in addition to subsection A of this section, I believe it should read, and I think Mr. Howard can tell me if I'm right, should read subsection B, because it's making reference to the paragraph which has the penalty, which is directly above it, and not to the section A. So I would like you to look at that. Lastly, I agree with you. I think that the $100 is very minimal requirement. I think that we really need to have something in the code that deals with malicious intent. None of us here have ever seen that, and most of us would not do it. But there are individuals who consider cutting down trees the cost of doing business, as Mr. Weaver said. In the city of Laverne, where I was the city landscape architect and did enforce our tree ordinance there, we would require after this sort of action that if a tree was placed or if a tree was moved, that there was a 5-year mitigation period that the owner had to pay for a consulting arborist to report on the tree. So that is a suggestion. I don't have it here on that.
Thank you. One question that I think the issue that you brought up on Section 1, which is you would like to modify that at no event pruning should be allowed more than 6 inches. Based on the ordinance that we have, in order for you to cut a 6-inch limb,
right,
your trunk has to be 60 inches in diameter. 60 inches, do you know how huge that oak is?
It's a huge tree.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking...
I'm yet to see a 60-inch oak tree.
Well, there are some around, but most of them have been cut down.
You know one in Glendale? I like to go visit it.
No, there might be one on the Oakmont property that...
I haven't seen a 60 inches? That's 5 feet in diameter.
Huge.
5 feet. That is a humongous tree. I think the only something like that may have been the peace oak, maybe. That's no longer there, unfortunately. But so I think the chances somebody's going to cut a 6 inch it's first we have to find a tree first, then we get there. So the rest of the stuff, I think the 10 inch is going to cover. I mean, the way it's
10%.
written,
The 10%, yeah.
the 10% is going to cover because it's not going to allow. I mean, at the worst case scenario, if you have a 48-inch diameter oak tree, 48-inch, which is about this big, you could do only 4 inches, which is...
And it would still require a permit. Yes.
Right. So you're going to need that. So I think that section is covered, as you are talking about. And thank you. At least I'm not the only one who is confused on Section C, our city manager, and telling me that after this is introduced, he will come back with clarification, because some people tell me it's Section A and B, and some section say...
Well, I would like that.
So they'll clarify.
Thank you very much. And I really want to commend you all for bringing this up and voting on it on Arbor Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, timing's great. Ken Howard, followed by David Myers.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much. I read this this ordinance, and on the purpose and intent paragraph or section, it appears to be warm and fuzzy, and I agree with it. There's nothing in it that doesn't give a proactive view towards the city's purpose of protecting these trees. The only thing I have a question regarding is that it says these trees growing within the city, these protected trees growing within the city. And my question is, within the city, does this include trees on land owned by the county and the state? Maybe that's a rhetorical question. I don't know. I don't know that answer, but...
No, we have no jurisdiction.
No. Okay. It was talked about earlier about Interstate 5 and about the carpool lane that was mentioned with Caltrans. Caltrans on the Interstate 5 has a section that is above grade that goes in from Griffith Park into Glendale, maybe for a couple of miles only. It's a short stretch. But in that landscape is literally a forest of these protected trees that Caltrans planted many decades ago. They're fully matured. They're beautiful trees. They are not viewable from the freeway. They're sound walls. They are only viewable from the Rancho area. Basically, that's the area that stretch goes through. And they're frankly gorgeous trees. Obviously, if there's no jurisdiction, then there's nothing really that we can do about protecting those trees. But having these trees needlessly removed and denuded from the city landscape would really hurt the city, because these have been a benefit to the city for eons. If the city can link these trees with some type of state protective ordinance or some type of issue there, that would be great to see if we can link it, because I think every year that goes by, I think more and more there are state officials that feel the sensitivity towards cities' wants about these trees. I, too, have met with Caltrans staff and Caltrans officials, and I can assure you that what you hear at the lower levels is different than what you hear at the higher levels. So I would encourage the city to look into protecting these indigenous trees, because we have a lot of freeway landscape that have these beautiful trees, and if they're can be plucked out by any particular means other than for safety for traffic, then it would be sad for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. David Myers, followed by Dick Murray.
Good evening again. My name is David Myers. I support this. I think it's a great idea. Really formalizing an emergency ordinance 25 years later into a formal ordinance with good penalties, something along those lines. That's about all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Dick Murray, followed by Margaret Hammond.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, councilman, staff. I'm Dick Murray with the Chevy Chase Estates Association. And let me begin by saying that our association is in very general support of this revised indigenous ordinance. It's a vast improvement over the previous one. But having said that, it has, in our opinion, one major flaw, which I'll comment on just a little later. First, let me give you the background that really led to this revised ordinance. Back in June of 2005, that's almost 2 years ago, gentlemen, a concerned citizen who happened to be a member of our association saw a couple of workmen hacking trees, cut one down entirely, cut one down to a stump, ruined the other two. He called over to the workmen and said, "You can't cut a tree that's over X inches." And they ignored him. He got mad. He called me. We got in touch with the city council. We got in touch with the Parks and Rec. We complained bitterly, and so did many other associations in the city. That's how this whole revised ordinance came about. What disturbs me, frankly, is that it took 2 years while they were continuing to cut trees because this ordinance was not enforceable. The city attorney's office told the Parks and Rec they couldn't enforce this ordinance unless they killed the tree. But let me go to the ordinance itself. It's a big improvement over the old one, and we're happy to see it. We are much in favor of it. But the penalty for cutting the tree without a permit is only the replacement cost of the tree plus a few bucks administration expenses. Let's be honest, gentlemen. Anyway, we have to put some teeth into the penalty. The penalty should be at least twice the cost of the tree, or 3 times.
It is.
No. That's when you do it when the permit's been denied. No, that's not what it says. Mr. Chappian will correct you. It says that if you do it without a permit, you pay a replacement cost only. If you do it after the permit's been denied, then it's 3 times. I say make the first one double so that you have a deterrent, which is the only way you're going to stop these people, because you're not going to sue every one of them. You'll fill the courts. That is a really bogus argument.
I think you've heard that argument tonight.
Yeah, I've heard it before. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yosefian.
I have to correct history in here, in all due respect to Mr. Murray. Maybe Mr. Starbird can say how this ordinance came about. Mr. Starbird?
He wasn't here in 82.
You mean the revised ordinance?
Right. How did we end up putting this on the agenda and bringing it up?
As I recall, as a result of several issues revolving around trees and whether or not the ordinance was too restrictive or not restrictive enough, the council asked the matter replaced on the agenda. That's what I recall.
Right.
No, I don't recall when that was.
There's some valuation issues.
It was-
There were a couple-
Revaluation
There were some valuation issues that arose. There
was
seemed to be
in-
several occurrences came up at one
There
time.
was a couple of lots where trees
It
were
was in December.
interfering with construction or on vacant lots and being
2 months
cut.
ago?
It was in December of 2004. It was during the elections for 2005. I was up in the northern part of the city. Several residents brought up to my attention some of the rules, how they're being administered by staff, and at the time I happened to be the mayor. I brought the item out to Mr. Starbird, and we put it on the agenda. It has taken over 2 years to get this done, and that's how it got started. But nevertheless, I have asked, and it has been on the to-do list on our items time and time again. I kept asking when it's coming, and I think it's one of those items that we're dealing with it today, and I will tell you the next item we're dealing with, which is the red light cameras. Mr. Gus Gomez asked for it. And
I
that
asked
goes
for it
back-
before him.
Right, and that
The
goes
guy
back
asked
a
for it before
long time.
You weren't even on council when I asked
So
for it.
let's make that clear.
In some defense here, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect to Mr.
Yes.
Seffi, and we can talk about that with red light photo radar, but you might recall the history of that, including a period of time when you couldn't implement it because
of the legal
because of the legal issues that
implications.
arose resolving.
I think we'll get to that next. Margaret, go right ahead.
So did we settle who started this whole thing?
No, we didn't settle, we never will.
All
We're
right.
dysfunctional, don't you know that?
Good evening. Good evening,
not.
Mr. Mayor, again, members of the council and staff and audience out there. Margaret Hammond. I'm really into trees, so I come from somewhere that trees were a big part of my life. And the one thing I want to say is, we were at the Casa Adobe today. Just imagine if that were not there. The people, the ladies in the neighborhood saved that park. They were in there cutting down the trees. And the ladies that surrounded there went in and stopped the treemen from cutting the trees.
Oh, that's better.
They stopped
Chained
them.
themselves to the trees, remember?
They
chained themselves to the trees.
Well,
Same thing, they did the same thing down at by the railroad tracks.
Let's hear Margaret's view.
well, at any rate,
I remember that.
just imagine if we didn't have that park with the beautiful trees. And the big tree that died, unfortunately, would have given us wonderful shade. The other thing is, I want to say this. What about the trees that are planted in public parks, such as all the beautiful trees that were down there in the Pacific Park, let alone that we lost our one and only swimming pool? The trees that were cut down, many of them had been donated by people through Glendale Beautiful. What happened to those trees? They were big trees. That was a beautiful park, well-treed, gorgeous. What have you got? A huge cement parking lot. I don't care what anybody says. It's ghastly now, and it was a beautiful park. Had the tennis courts and this wading pool, beautiful. And all the trees were cut down. Huge trees, some of the largest in Glendale. The other thing that I want to say, what happens in that case? Who's going to pay, where did the trees go that were cut down or taken out? They're gone. The other thing is, there was a lady, Robin Hanson, who called me. She lives on Glen Oaks Canyon, in hysterics about the city, whatever you call them, tree cutters, cutting her tree in front of her house to pieces. She was in tears. She called me. I said, well, yeah, I'm with Glendale Beautiful, but I'm not in charge of the trees. Get a hold of Bill McKinley or somebody in the department. What about those people that are supposedly working for the city that are cutting these trees? It was ghastly. I went and looked at it. It was very sad. And the other thing is, what about putting a moratorium on them building where they've cut down a tree? Make it 5, instead of even 5 years, make it 10 years. You can't make an addition if you've cut down a good tree. That would be good. But thank you very much for considering this ordinance, and if you put it through, it'll be a big benefit to the city, to us tree lovers. Thank you.
Bill Nickel?
Wish I had some colorful stories for you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Bill Nickel, resident of the city. I just wanted to, as I had mentioned earlier this evening, I wanted to offer kudos to the to staff for putting together what we consider a pretty good ordinance, and I think it's going to save a lot of trees. Unfortunately, it's kind of late in coming, but at least we'll save what's left. As far as the penalty is concerned, I have a suggestion that might fly, because we were talking about some rather substantial values on these trees, upward to $75,000, whatever. And there was also one of the videos that showed the 20% value added to the house with these trees. So why don't we just say at the greater of the cost of the 3 trees or 20% of the improvements on the house? Thank you very much.
That's good. Don't think twice then. It's a good idea. Well, the downtown specific plan took 10 years to get through, so 2 years, that's a snap. Okay, this is an ordinance for introduction, and any ordinance can be modified or changed in the future. So I don't know what my colleagues want to do. We've commented a lot.
Yeah, well, I
We're not
haven't
gonna
commented much.
Well,
so-
I know, but we're not going to create the perfect ordinance here tonight. We're going to tinker with that in years to come based on what we see happen. My opinion. Go ahead, Mr. Quintero.
Okay, I want to start by, while this may not be in the ordinance, I think it's important that we have some type of tree hotline, if you want to call it that, and as part of our outreach, especially on the weekends, that the average citizen, we could play it on Channel 6, the average citizen knows that he can pick up the phone and call this number, and someone from the city will respond, whether it's going to be a park ranger, police, or I don't know who's going to be in charge, but we need to do that, because we all know that's when most of the mutilations take place, on the weekends, and that's also true of people who do home improvements and so forth. On the weekends, it's just very busy time for contractors, and they think they can get away with doing things without permits. So that, I think, is very important that we do it, whether it's written into the ordinance or not, but to have a mechanism to do that. Then the second comment I want to make is I agree that to cut the tree without a permit, we should, at a minimum, double the fine. I think that's very important that we do that. When someone willingly does it without a permit, that the fine be doubled. And then the last speaker's comment about the concept of doing 20% of the improvement or the value, whichever is greater, is that something that can be done legally, that you could tie this ordinance to? If someone deliberately takes out the tree, knows they're going to put in a huge addition or a pool, whatever it is that they're planning to do, and they figure out, well, you know what, it's going to cost me X amount, but I'll take the chance.
In the context of a civil penalty, yes. The only concern that I have is to make sure that it's properly measurable, so that we're not engaged in some major debate at a hearing, whether it's administrative hearing or otherwise, to determine what 20% of the value is, and does it apply to this property and not to another one. I think Mr. McKinley will tell you that they've got it down to a pretty good science in determining the value of the trees through the consulting arborist groups. The valuation of how it affects the value of property is another matter.
Okay, and so currently it'll be 3 times the value of the tree. Is that correct?
If removed after a permit has been denied, if removed without a permit, and it doesn't, the ordinance right now as drafted does not draw a distinction between malicious, willful, or negligent conduct. The "I didn't know I needed a permit" type of defense, and it's essentially the value of the tree.
Okay, well, I think we should do double the value of the tree. I think that's a good way to try to hold down the person who just has no interest in trees and is going to do what they want to do. Now, another speaker was also talking about something that I think makes some sense, and that is that any tree expert who performs pruning on any public or private property must possess a valid C-27 contractor's license. I think that makes some sense because you're going to raise the expertise of people that will come and perform the pruning for the property owner. So I think that's a good idea. I think that should be added to the ordinance.
Yes. I just wanted to add, Mr. Darrell, during the campaign, I've been talking about that hotline for weekend construction activities. And I know we all got a copy of Verdugo Woodlands West. It's talking about a tree hotline, all one and the same, whether it's cutting trees down or taking fences down and building retaining walls and foundations on the weekend. I think we got to find a way to have a hotline for people to call in, report those activities, and get somebody out there on the weekend. It's going to cost to staff it, but there's too much going on that we don't have control over. So we're not really serving our constituents.
Well, I assume, Mr. Zern, that we have people from Public Works that are pretty much working weekends and so forth. I know GWP has employees that are also working weekends.
Again, we have people on call, not necessarily working. So
yes, it's an on-call kind of a thing.
Yeah, but on
unless
call
we have specific work underway on a Saturday that I've approved, we don't have people in the city, but we do have them available.
Let me add, if the council's interested in having a report back on a hotline on-call response, we'll prepare a report that'll outline what it'll mean in terms of staffing and costs. But we don't generally have those people here on weekends who are available to respond.
If Mr. Mayor, I can just add to that, we established a hotline, weekend and after-hours hotline for the Brand Boulevard project. It was very easy for us to do. It was Brand Boulevard specific. It was cleared on a daily, evening basis and weekend basis by designated staff who then had call-out lists to get designated personnel. Sometimes it may be public safety. Sometimes it was our own people. But it worked pretty well. It wasn't perfect. We can certainly improve on it, but we have used it on special.
I'd like to report on it because there's too much illegal activity going on. There's no place for people at home to call.
We'll bring you back a report. It's not going to be a simple program.
Absolutely, it's not going to be simple, but we got to start trying to tackle it. Mr. Mnuchin.
Yes, thank you. I am in general in support of the ordinance. I think enforcement is great, 2-3 times, but of the value of the tree, I'm not in support of the 20%. Again, the city attorney made a good case for not having it. I think the most important thing is the outreach that we talked about. If we can prevent some of these things that go on the weekends before we have to have the staffing and the enforcement actions, I think that's where we have to work the most. And I think for me, after passing the ordinance, concentrating and doing the outreach to the community through different channels, including some of the people who work in the city, like the contractors as they come. And if we are going to have licenses for tree pruners, I think we should either have them go through an initial class of tree pruning demonstration class before that license is given, as in other professions. I think that's a great idea. Informing all the contractors that work in the city, handing some of the handouts, giving it to them, so they know what the laws are and what the consequences are before they even think about doing something like that. So for me, prevention is the most important thing, and working with the community to prevent it. I also think that we need to do the outreach to the schools as well, going out to the schools and talking to the kids, because a lot of the times it's these, the parent says, let's prune this tree, and the children go out and have fun. They don't really know what to do. But it's important to reach out to all the community and let them know what's going on, so we don't have people going out and cutting these trees before we do any enforcement. But the enforcement, of course, is part of the overall approach to saving the trees. So I'm very big on outreach. I think it's a of course, it was a very short presentation in terms of outreach. I'd like to see a much more inclusive program that reaches out to the community and informs the community. And and I hope that when you talk about local media, where you're talking about the different ethnic medias as well, in different languages, so it's understood what the laws are. Thank you.
Very welcome. Mr. Najarian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several comments on this. First of all, I think if we're really serious about protecting our trees, we need to come down with some clearer instructions to staff, such as, should there be a criminal prosecution for this, are we willing to direct the city attorney not to conduct any plea bargaining? Because typically it's the city attorney who conducts a plea bargain with the defendant. Are we going to hold his feet to the fire and request that a trial be conducted and that the city request that the maximum fine, monetary fine, and criminal prosecution be conducted? We haven't discussed that. Are we willing to go that far? And the question is it proper for the council to give you that direction, Mr. Howard, or are you entirely independent in seeking the interests of justice in a criminal prosecution? So that's a question I just throw out there.
You want him to answer that?
Well, he can think about that. I've got a couple other, and perhaps when I'm done he can respond. I want to make sure that any fines that we collect do go into the urban forestry fund, reforestation. I'm getting nods on that. Are we ready to encourage neighbors to pick up that hotline and report another neighbor for, well, what you do is you hear a buzzsaw. You're home one day and you hear a buzzsaw, and you're maybe not sure what's going on. You don't want to get in your neighbor's yard because it's his property. Are we going to take the position where we encourage neighbors to, when they hear a buzzsaw on the weekend, go out and call that hotline and have someone come to the site and ask for a permit or to inspect it and see what's going on? I think we're getting in that direction by setting up a hotline. We're asking that to happen. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think we encourage neighbors to keep an eye out for crime and neighborhood watch and all that. This is going to be a crime. It'll be a misdemeanor if you start cutting a tree that way. So this is another step as we go. Did I understand that the school district and the community college district are exempt from any of this?
They may not be. They have the ability to exempt themselves from our land use ordinances through the passage and adoption of resolutions. But absent that, they would not be.
Okay, I hope that they are not exempt.
They are generally not exempt. There's a way to exempt themselves.
Well, that's a question that I'm sure there's a legal response to it. It's not for us to decide.
Being legally exempt and frankly them recognizing they have to adhere to these codes are probably two different things. My guess is they tell you that, I imagine they trim their trees, they don't come in and get permits from us. So I think one is a legal question, one is a practical question.
Resolution to that.
And they again, we can certainly get into more details and put together memoranda, but generally school districts, college districts, other than the state, have to go through a process to exempt themselves from city laws. There's a couple of cases, one out of Pasadena, for example, unless it's related specifically to an educational function. If it's a non-educational function, they have the ability to exempt themselves, and there's a process they have to go through under the government code to do it.
Typically, the school districts are the largest landowners in a city, besides the municipality itself. So I'm sure there's a lot of trees out there. Where do we want to go with that issue? I agree that the fine for cutting a tree without a permit should at least be 2 times the amount. But here's really the other question. We're sort of skirting around the true crux of this, and that is, I can cut a tree if I have a permit, and that discretion is vested in the director. And George, is that you, George?
No, it would be the Public Works Director.
Public Works Director.
Right.
And number one says, the number one, we talk about the criteria in 12.44.060. The following criteria shall be considered by the director where applicable in evaluating applications. And number one is the necessity to remove the tree because its continued existence at such location prevents the reasonable development of the subject property as determined by the director. So I think that sentence is really the key to everything we're talking about here. I mean, we're talking about perhaps the extreme cases where someone's out there chopping away, but Steve, someone's going to, come to you, and I just bought this land, and I've got 12 oaks on it, and hey, there's no way I can configure a house. Give me that permit. I want to chop 10 of them down. This is the outcry that we're going to hear, and let's just realize that I think that's the key to this whole ordinance right here. Are you going to give a permit under that situation? Well,
he's hedging his...
these are the type of tough questions that are going to be laid on your lap, and, it's more difficult than the black and white. You cut it without a permit, and you didn't seek a permit and all that. So let's not fool ourselves in thinking that there's never going to be any oak trees cut on a lot in this city. There's a lot of discretion held. We've got takings issues, and we're going to be talking about the same things that we talk about whenever we have an issue on development, and we've discussed it. And I know Mr. Murray's there, and he says, "Oh yeah," and we've had several rounds, and let's talk about that.
Just quickly to point out, the language in the criteria, and Mr. Chapshin can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is the same language that's in the existing ordinance now.
Right. And we've had cases like that, Councilman Najarian, where we actually we do work with the planning department, and that's where Director Zern would end up working with, is we would make a recommendation, and the planning department determines whether or not the development is feasible, and to help. Actually, they help us in determining whether or not they should allow for a permit to remove trees, and that's where the valuations comes in, and we actually have made developers replace trees or put money into the Urban Forest Fund. So it wouldn't stop development, but it is a case-by-case issue.
Starbert.
Well, and if I can, in the situations that I've seen, it doesn't land on Steve's desk alone. It's the arborists, it's the planning department, it's the building department looking at these cases, usually starting with an arborist saying, this is a significant tree, or this isn't such a significant tree, and then looking at the plans and working with the planners and designers in the building department to see how can the person work around the tree if it's significant, or if it's not, if they can plant replacement, where can they go on the property. So it's never an easy yes or no on the desk of the planning director or the director of Parks and Recreation. There's usually a number of people and a number of disciplines involved in making that decision, working with the private architect and the property owner.
Also includes a CEQA analysis as well.
That's right.
And so I just want the folks to know who are out there listening to us, and you've heard that we've got the tree ordinance, that there are still avenues for landowners to seek permission to cut oak trees to do development. Of course, it's being reviewed, and Mr. Starbert just told us. But this is not a guarantee that no oak trees are going to be cut. It's just a streamlining of the process and a clarification and perhaps a strengthening of the penalties involved. So.
And sometimes it was just a matter of redesign, if that can be done to save some trees, and we've worked that out through one or two developments. So.
Mr. Yusefian?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know. Everybody keeps making this stronger. I have a recommendation. Let's shoot people who cut them. How about that? Does that go with you guys?
That got the most reaction tonight.
Okay. Let me say something. I have planted more trees in this city probably than everyone sitting in this dais combined.
Well,
I will guarantee you, I'll give you numbers. But let's not forget one thing, okay? It's a tree, it grows, it lives, it dies. we plant other trees. Let's not also forget what Glendale used to look like 100 years ago. You'll be lucky if you saw one bush what come to a tree. Okay? Most of these trees you see on the hills or in the residential areas, they're all planted by people. Okay? And then some are volunteers. The birds came, picked up the acorns from them, and planted it somewhere else on the hills. But if you look at some of the historic pictures of Glendale, which I have, there's not even a scrub oak on those trees. On those hills. Nothing. I couldn't believe it was so barren. Maybe the Verdugo's cows went around and ate everything. I don't know. But it was nothing. Now, let's not go crazy over this thing and make this thing so encumbrance that people can't even touch their own tree in their own property. Okay? I think this ordinance does pretty much what we want it to do. It clarifies things. It sets certain things, certain guidelines. Now you know what you're going to pay. And let's say if you're going to cut a 10-inch tree, you're going to pay $10,000? You're going to pay $10,000. That's not cheap, even at 100%. You know, $10,000 is a lot of money. You could buy a Kia. Okay? Can't buy a Mercedes, but you can buy a Kia. All right? And some people don't. And let me say one thing about the hotline. I had a friend in La Crescenta went out and decided to trim his oak tree. Within 10 minutes, there were 3 police cars there. He was arrested. It's his own fault because he tried to fight with them. He was arrested. Yeah, this is what happens. And he paid a very, very hefty fine. So, hotlines, believe me, when I hear a sawbuzz, I look around, and if I see somebody's doing something to oak or sycamore, I just call 911. And our police officers are very good about that. They show up there and they take care of it. And, you know, when you see a black and white there, those buzzsaws immediately stop. So I haven't had any problems when they get the call. So I'm going to introduce the ordinance at this time. And I like the ordinance to come back with some modifications when it comes back. And most of the modification is clarification of the section 12.44.90. And if there needs to be any modifications, it can be done on the day of the adoption of the ordinance later.
Well, the mayor would like to say a few things, too, before we move on. This ordinance isn't going to be perfect. I think staff got direction of where to tighten up different areas. We'll see it again to vote on it, and people will be here to comment on it again. It's better than what we've had before. Does it go all the way? Is it too punitive? I have not the foggiest idea. Will people continue to cut down trees in order to build? Yes, they will. Will they pay the penalty if they get caught? Yes, they will, and they will continue to do it. Just like people speed on our streets, even though we go out and ticket them, they'll still speed. They'll still litter. They'll still do the things they want to do because that's the way they were raised. Break the law, it doesn't matter. I'll get away with it. If they catch me, so what? That's reality. That's how we live in our society today. I do want to see the hotline. We can always remove a hotline in the future, but I was talking about a hotline for illegal construction as well as trees. And if it gets to be punitive with one neighbor trying to get even with another neighbor by calling in the line and having the troops roll out, then I'll be standing here saying, let's remove the hotline because it's being abused. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'm tired of getting too many complaints about illegal construction, illegal tree cutting on weekends and nights. Total contempt for the laws of this city. And we got to put our foot down somewhere. So I think staff, it's been introduced. Come back here with a...
Has it been introduced?
Yeah, I did.
By Councilmember Yusefian.
Mr. Quintero?
In answer to Mr. Najarian's question about the criminal prosecution, absolutely, I think the city attorney should prosecute. As a matter of fact, what is the maximum under a misdemeanor statute? Would it be 1 year? Or?
6 months in jail or a $1,000 fine or both, I believe, under our charter.
That's all, just 6 months?
Where, San Quentin?
But I think...
That's a felony. County jail.
St. Quentin.
I know.
They're going to wish they were in San Quentin once they see county.
Oh, really?
County jail.
County, huh?
Yeah, but the problem, well, we don't want to get into the problems with county jail, but because
How
of
do you know,
overcrowding
Mr.
issues, maybe a revolving door.
And then it'll be sentence suspended.
We have a
They'll be put on
brand new
probation.
jail here at the police station, so maybe they can do weekend duty there.
No, don't worry, the sentence will
The
be,
judge would allow them.
they'll put them on probation, sentence
Allow them.
suspended, the jails are full, can't take any more.
No, I think what we should do, have them work on our trails. You know, they cut a tree, put them on our trails.
Like the Caltrans workers?
Yeah. Let them go out there and clean up and help the nature.
We can...
Put orange vests on them and march
That's
them
right.
out there, right?
Mr. Mayor, we can do all of those things. In fact, we used to have a program with probationers, but you should understand that those are very labor-intensive. Staff has to provide supervision of those individuals, and many times it doesn't pay to do that. Normally, we just send them through the court process, and they go work on a Caltrans crew. Otherwise, if you want to have them work on city property, we're going to have city supervision.
Okay, I think we finished this issue for one night.
Without belaboring it any further, I need to point out that because of some of the changes, and by the way, I should point, I need to take a mea culpa on this. A member of my staff worked on this ordinance. I concur with Ms. Landrigan and Councilmember Yusefian. I think the language in 12449C is a little confusing. It's based on the punctuation and where it's placed and the language it's used. I would like to take the opportunity to have another member of my staff rework this section with Parks and Rec and Public Works and bring it back in 2 weeks. I think there's a way of consolidating both the
Can't you do that
subsections in there.
With the motion, with the ordinance to
As
be
long as we get,
adopted?
just give us direction. We're just introducing it today. We can make it.
That was part of
it's
the introduction.
Under our charter, you're permitted to make changes that are germane. Certainly, these are germane changes. It's really more a matter of reworking the language and consolidating it to get, I think, where the intent is, but it's not crystal clear.
Go forth and do it. Go
Mr.
forth and do it. Mr. Starbird.
One more item.
more item.
George leaned over to me and asked if we were going to get direction on the nature of the penalties.
Right.
I'm just wondering if we can't bring you back a couple of options when you adopt the ordinance and then decide what level of penalties you want at that time. And we'll bring you back a couple of options on penalties.
Mr. Mayor, in light of my
Mr.
absence
Najarian.
next week, can this be brought back in 2 weeks?
They said 2 weeks.
In fact, my request is a minimum of 2 weeks because I would want a member of my staff to sit down with Parks and Rec and if necessary, Public Works.
Try to do it
just to recast the language of this one section alone. We literally have 1 day to do it.
Okay, try to do it in March, since the 5 of us have been party to all this.
We'll get it back, if not in 2 weeks, 3 at the most.
Okay.
At the most.
Good. Now, let's move on to the next item. See if that goes any faster.
Hey, why don't you do the mobility, since it's almost...
No, this red light shouldn't take long. There's no speakers.
Mr. Mayor?
Red light.
At 8C is Director of Public Works regarding implementation of a red light photo enforcement pilot program. At 8C1, motion awarding contract to Red Flex Traffic Systems, Inc.
We've talked about this for 10 years, too.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Speaker.
No.
8C. Only if needed.
No speakers.
Okay.
Is there a
I have a
second?
question.
Well, you can have a question. That's permitted.
Has it been moved and seconded?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's my question. As I was reading this,
Legal.
you get a, I guess you can actually, it's a video clip, and if you are identified, if you get the ticket, you're the owner of the vehicle,
Lieutenant Povolitis.
Lieutenant, and it's not me in there, and to get out of that ticket, I've got to turn over the person who I think is driving?
That's the information that...
Is that legal?
Yes.
Apparently
If
it
you
is.
violate...
Isn't that the snitch
Fifth
ordinance?
Amendment right to remain
Yeah,
silent.
right.
Well, they're not incriminating themselves, they're incriminating
Snitch
someone
ordinance.
else.
Can we give it that
sounds
name?
weird. I
Snitch
mean,
ordinance?
let's say Bob's driving my car, and we don't know who Bob is, and it's clearly not me.
It wouldn't be the first time.
you're driving his
when
car?
I'm getting a ticket, he doesn't know me.
It's sort of the same issue that we face with parking citations, and review that part of the process of
wasn't
processing
me.
that citation
Parked the car.
and the follow-up is to request from the registered owner from the vehicle, if they're not the person that's driving it, to provide the information on who was driving it before the citation is released from the registered owner.
Boy, in your discretion, you see who's driving, you see it's not me. Wouldn't it be overbearing to insist on a prosecution because I don't turn over the person who is driving?
It's your car.
So?
What if you're wearing a mask?
No, I'm not responsible for someone driving through a red light in my car. I mean, let me get some legal help here. I'm not going left wing on you here, but we've got some basic issues.
Something the DA would have to ultimately determine. Our office doesn't prosecute those.
Oh, you don't, but
the DA does.
But what's your opinion on it?
He's not the DA.
I really don't want to
attorney's going
certainly
at it.
interfere with the DA. There could certainly be a presumption that the registered owner is driving the vehicle, and it would be essentially a rebuttable presumption.
Is this a policy that we, as a council, can affect, or are you just merely reporting on the current state of?
That's the current state, and how far, because it is actually a traffic citation that would go through the traffic court as not a civil process, but an actual criminal infraction process like any other traffic violation. That would ultimately be up to the district attorney's office as to how far they would like to push the issue.
I mean, there's issues of spousal privilege and all sorts of other.
And what would happen is someone can raise that issue and other issues as well, and the district attorney can determine in the interest of justice if they want to pursue it and ultimately challenge it. There have been challenges to the red light photo enforcement process in San Diego, and originally the San Diego Superior Court judge there canceled all the citations until there was corrections which were been made legislatively to the length of the yellow light, for example, and a whole host of other issues, not the least of which is identity of the driver. Well, some of those have been addressed, and Ms. Ansoni can explain in more detail, certainly, what the vehicle code outlines. You raise good points, but that'll be ultimately the district attorney's determination of what to do in conjunction with the court.
Okay, I don't want to hold this up. I know it's important, and we've been talking about it for a while.
10 years.
It's just a funny. Watch, it'll happen to
It's going to be an issue that we address, and there are certain follow-up actions, obviously, that the police department would take to try and
Jerry and
identify
the
the
false
driver.
glasses, mustache, and the wig aren't going to work.
A couple people that I've run into that got them, there's a very nice picture of them driving through the red light.
Okay. It's a motion and a second. Want to have a roll call?
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Yusefian?
Aye.
Mayor Weaver?
Aye.
How long before these are operational?
We'll need to execute the contract. Once we do that, we'll evaluate some intersections in combination with traffic engineering, the police department, and the contractor. Once we've determined the
Give me a timeline. 5 months, 6 months.
I'm hoping for faster than that. Once we find the intersections, the equipment should be installed within 30 to 60 days.
So what am I looking before I see those cameras up?
this spring.
Give us 30 to 60 days
3 to
identify.
5.
Yeah,
3 to 5 months.
Yes.
Okay, so in 6 months I'll see. Okay.
And this
Early summer.
So in 6 months you better not run a red light. You're going to get.
and this is a trial, 1 year, find out if it works, then we put it all over the city. Highway, 98% of
come back to you.
We'll come back to you and share with you the results and get
Yes.
direction from you. Yes.
Right.
Once they
If it works-
execute the contract, they'll come back with another live contract. So they.
Okay, after they execute the...
Then they'll come and execute us.
But I hope someday that we have one on every intersection, 98% of them fake. And let the driver decide if he wants to run the red light, see if it's a real
Let me just emphasize that during the 1999 election, when in a coffee in a house, I talked about this. Some individuals were principally opposed to government having eyes on the street, the overbearing government, and they're not here objecting to this today. So for the record, I do want to say that some people are opposed to this in principle.
Some people are always opposed to everything.
I understand, but, that objection was brought up to me when we were talking about traffic enforcement and speeding.
I think you've got to look at the greater good of the whole community. Like I said, I was 1 to 2 seconds away from being dead a couple of weeks ago. That close. That was scary. So I'd like to cut that sucker. So maybe one day we'll catch that kind.
I tried.
Did you see that look on his face?
I knew that car looked familiar.
I want a copy of that.
Jeez. Oh boy. We really are dysfunctional, aren't we?
I'm going to have a little laugh.
Go back to the airport.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on with the public hearing now. See how fast we can wrap that up.
Mr. Mayor and Council, at 9 is hearings, and at 9A is Acting Director of Planning regarding proposed final draft of the Glendale Mobility Study and negative declaration. 9A1 is resolution adopting the negative declaration, and at 9A2 is motion adopting the mobility study.
Mr. Howard,
That's a hearing?
will we be able to do both at one time when we get to that point? Okay.
Is that a hearing?
Yes, it's a public hearing at the proper time.
If I may, Mr.
No,
Mayor.
we're not opening the public hearing yet.
Mr. Mayor, before we go that, the record should reflect that although
yes.
it's somewhat of a hybrid, on the red light enforcement matter, that was a public hearing.
I forgot.
It didn't require public notice, like publishing or mailing, but under the vehicle code, public hearing is synonymous with public meeting for that purpose. So we wanted to make sure that the record reflects that
Was public hearing on-
it was a public hearing as defined in the vehicle code.
Thank goodness we had no speakers.
Which had no speakers.
Yeah. Okay, who's starting this out, Mr. Starbird? Are we going directly to...
If I may.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Yusefian?
I think before we go through this, we've gone through all of this thing. I just want to know, is there any changes to what we have seen so far?
There are only two things. One is I do want to report that on February 21st...
Bonnie, I'm sorry. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. Bonnie Nelson Nygaard, very pleased to be here this evening. I know the hour is late and we ought to keep this brief. I do want to report that on February 21st, we had a joint meeting of the Planning and Transportation Commissions. We received input from them and a good deal of support for the items in the plan. I want to report that to you. The only other change is something that you requested at your last meeting, which was an extension of one of the pedestrian streets in the street typology. We have made that correction, and that will be in the final draft of the
There's
report.
one other thing I'd like you to clarify. There's some people here tonight that seem to think that we're going to start implementing tonight things like parking meters on Brand, hours of operation. That's not the intent tonight. This is to adopt the mobility plan, and then staff will come back in stages.
Yes.
According to our priorities. So some here are scared that I believe that we're going to go too far tonight.
Or that we'll do it tomorrow. Let me just take 1 minute to say that what you are being asked to do tonight is to adopt the mobility study. This represents over a year's worth of work and a very intensive public process where we received many comments from lots of people and had at least 3 separate workshop sessions with the council. What you're doing in adopting the plan this evening is you're endorsing the principles in the plan, which include better management of your parking supply. It includes some guidelines for developers. It includes ways to protect the neighborhoods, some capacity enhancements on key streets, and some transit improvements on key streets, a multimodal plan. Most of what is in the plan must come back to you in the form of ordinances, to put meters on Brand, to change the rates in the garages, to implement the 90 minutes free and the reduced rate that is recommended. Any of those things must come back to you in the form of ordinances, and the plan is to bring those back to you over the next several months. John will be taking a lead in those items, and we hope to be able to help him with those, but you will need to review every one of them, in one at a time under this big umbrella that you are endorsing.
And the
this evening.
Downtown Merchant Association will be totally familiar with the fact when it's happening and be able able to review everything prior to getting to us.
They've been wonderful up until now, and I would expect that they
We
would...
made up till now.
Well, no, they've to date, they have been wonderful and supportive. We've met with them several times, and I certainly expect that staff will continue to meet with them throughout the development of the ordinances.
Mr. Starbird?
In that regard, probably important to note that the study is a series of tools, recommendations, strategies, of which you may accept some of them, most of them, all of them. You might modify them. You might reject some of them as they're brought back to you each individually as part of our implementation plan.
And we have given you some direction already on priorities.
Oh, yes, you have.
Yes, you have.
For example, meters on brand.
Adjusting parking
And
rates, crouches.
and the buzz.
The buzz, yeah.
And adjusting the parking.
Okay, so with that...
I have no questions. That's why I was asking
go to
if there's any
speaker?
changes. So, I've seen everything.
Well, let's see where we go then. Thank you for the presentation, Bonnie. I'll open the...
My shortest one to date.
Yeah. Open the public hearing. First speaker is Herbert Milano.
He's not here.
Barry McComb.
I don't think he wants to talk.
How about trying 2 minutes, and if you need more, let me know.
I won't need that. In fact,
now that you know...
I was going to say, it's nice to know I could have gone home earlier this evening.
I'm sorry. I tried to explain that.
That's okay. Barry McComb, Executive Director of the Alex Theater. As I mentioned when
I'm sorry, Barry. Mary, did you open the public hearing?
Yes.
Obviously. Okay.
As I mentioned when I spoke at the last study session, I'm really here as a member of the Downtown Merchants Association. I think they'll probably be pleased to hear that there's still some time to process through the information. Certainly, our biggest concern remains the change in the time period, the parking validation for people coming to the theater. When the city purchased the Alex Theater, one of the primary goals was for it to serve as an economic catalyst for downtown Glendale, and certainly the way we do that is by promoting patrons to come early and to dine and shop beforehand. The last piece I guess I'll leave you with, that some of you may know from the redevelopment agency, that the Alex Theater has been undertaking a market research study that started in November. We'll come to a conclusion in May, and then we'll start tabulating numbers shortly after that. One of the things that we're surveying people on is whether or not they truly do come early to go to dinner, shop. And so hopefully about the time that you consider this ordinance, we'll be able to bring that information to show you what the impact is. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Barry. Herbert Milano now. Followed by Brooke Greer, Person.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. That was very gracious of you to allow me to come back after being outside there for a while. I'd like to just point out a couple of things. I've always believed that this particular study for the mobility is probably one of the best that I've seen presented to the city of Glendale. And obviously in the study itself is not going to have a negative impact or a negative declaration, but the absence of measures could. And it is in that regard that I'd like to bring this up. There is, on page 4, it says, under comments of section C1, implementation of the mobility study is intended to reduce auto use with the following, objectives. And when I look at, it's intended to reduce it from where? From what level? From the levels currently available? In other words, have we measured our current status, and then it's going to reduce it from our current ones, or is it going to measure it after we build 10,000 units? So, I'm sorry, 1,000 units. Or is it 10? I think it was 10,000 residents. It's a large number. Then on page number 5, it says improve circulation and mobility reduces idling. By how much? In other words, what are our targets with all of these programs? There's the mobility studies considered to be the goal 4 of the City of Glendale air quality elements, reduce reliance on automotive transportation. By how much? And it's the question that I have throughout this document. You're going to reduce it by how much, and how do we know if we're reaching our goals? All over this document is the same thing. And finally, on one of your slides, it says decreases traffic congestion. Decreases it to what level? From what level? And it's what I'd love to see, that these particular documents eventually give us a way that we can measure performance of the city every year, not every 5 years. Thank you.
Brooke Person, followed by Beatrice Porto.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Brooke Person, the Executive Director of the Glendale Transportation Management Associates. The Glendale TMA is a not-for-profit organization. We have 14 voluntary members that pay membership dues to our organization. We represent around 11,000 commuters. We support this plan. It is a comprehensive plan. It works in many communities very successfully, and I encourage your support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Beatrice Porto? Why do you call yourself Beatrice, Betty?
That is my legal name.
Well, you don't have to issue that here. Come on. Now I'm going to call you Beatrice from now on.
The questions that I had were mostly answered by you at the beginning. We met Bonnie, at the Merchants Association months ago, but I hadn't heard back, so when I saw the newspaper today, I said, what's going on? We haven't seen her in 6 months, and now they're voting on it. So basically, you're voting just on the whole plan, right?
I told your brother.
I know, but
he didn't tell you.
There's just two things that, that I wanted to ask, Bonnie. The main thing is we're going to get some input on when you do put the meters on brand, the merchant's going to have some input about the hours, whether it's 1 hour and 2 hours, because
even if we put them in,
we have more, we know more what we need than anybody else in the community.
Absolutely.
So, that would be a good thing, for us to know at the merchants level. We haven't heard back again from Bonnie, so we need to meet with her and get more information about this. And my other concern was also parking for the employees. I've been asking for, we've been asking for years, since the Orange Garage has been empty for years, to get a special rate for, full-time employees. And as of now, it stands at $45. When we go on with the mobility study, I know that it's probably going to be like zoning where people can no longer park. Our employees park maybe 2 or 3 blocks away, wherever they can find parking, because we keep encouraging them not to take the back lot, because that hurts the business. So we keep putting letters on their checks, and we keep them informed, and we keep telling them what to do. But another issue we have is Sundays. Sundays, there's no, it's free parking. So that's a hard day for us to enforce the parking in the back. Now, if we're going to limit, their ability to park blocks away and walk to the bakery, can we do some kind of reduction so they can, they can find parking at, Glendale parkings, and instead of paying $45, and I don't know if you're planning to increase the rate of the parking in Orange. Is going to go down.
Yep.
That would be a good thing. Because if we take parking from the streets and we don't give an answer where to park, that's going to be an issue.
How many workers do you have on a shift?
In Glendale?
Yeah.
120-something people.
God. A lot of them downstairs, huh?
Right. So, we've been asking for that for a long time.
120.
From the city, but we have never had,
jeez,
anybody come and...
That'll take care of the capacity in the Orange Street Garage.
Well, that's the point. It's been empty forever, and,
we'll kick the new car dealers that are parking up there out.
Yeah, they're not parked there anymore. They're all gone now. I guess they finished building the Mercedes and the Infiniti are almost done, so in the BMW.
I will put those in there.
So that's going to be taken into account too.
Of course.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that 120 per shift at the night and the day?
During the day.
About 120. How about night when you're cooking? Baking?
Well, they come in around 12 o'clock, maybe 15 of them. And what they do is they park in the back, and then when the time comes, they move.
There's about 15.
Yeah, night.
Through the night?
Yes, 15. So we also had questions about whether they're going to keep enforcing the meters later on at night instead of just 6 o'clock. Maybe later on at night, and maybe instead of 2 hours, maybe 1 hour. I don't know. That's something that but I think we should discuss it at the merchants level. So I think most of the people that go to that are in that block don't even know what's going on. They have no clue of what we're doing, and we need to put up, a big a big boom on the newsletter so they can show up and they give us some input of what they.
Don't worry, you get to get plenty of input.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very welcome. Nancy Kent?
Well, let me just comment, not just for Porto, but for all the employees there in mid-brand, we have to find a solution for the people that work in those restaurants or work in the retail stores. Those employees are not making a whole lot of money, and so for me, the solution is to have the upper levels of the Orange Street Garage used by those employees. And if it's a reasonable rate that we're charging, I think we're going to have full compliance. I don't imagine people are going to want to walk 2 or 3 blocks away. Well, not even 2, 3 to 4 blocks away when they can park in the Orange Street Garage at a reasonable price. So we need to look at all of the mid-brand employees and what we can do to get them parking in the upper levels of the Orange Street Garage.
We will. Okay, Nancy Kent?
Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to hear her first, or?
No, it's not about Nancy. And I think what one of my colleagues says, let's not forget, a few weeks ago we gave out a whole bunch an Orange Street Garage for the school, and we told the students to park on the upper level too, so they can't be both in the same place. Okay, you can put too many people in the same place.
We'll figure out something. We'll get them both.
That was a large number. It was over 100 and some odd.
Okay, Nancy.
My name's Nancy Kent. I'm a resident of Glendale, and I'm here to request bike lanes and bike racks for Glendale once again. And I would not want to suggest that Glendale should copy what Pasadena is doing, but I noticed last weekend in Old Town Pasadena, they have parking enforcement officers riding on bicycles there, for your information. Thank you.
If I have no more cards, the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor, there are in the mobility study, there are bike lanes and all of that?
Bike lanes and bike parking, yes.
Okay.
Does this have him?
At this time, I'll move 9A 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, I have a question first for, I don't know if it's directly relevant, but I need to find out about it, Mr. Bagdanian. About 3 months ago, I'd asked for a report on why one-way streets and four-way walks that are in other cities won't work on Brand. You were going to meet with me. It's been about 3 months now. When were you planning to do that?
We have almost completed our analysis, and in about 2 weeks, we should be able to bring it back to council.
No, I had asked, you had told me it was infeasible to have one-way streets and four-way walks. So I said, okay, then I want to meet with you to discuss that, to see what your engineering rationale for it was. I've been waiting about 3 months.
As I said, Mr. Mayor, we have the analysis in terms of the reasons we don't think one-way streets will work. I just need a couple of things that we have to finalize, and within 2 weeks, we can individually...
It was premature to tell me 2 or 3 months ago it wouldn't. You had to develop the logic stream to show it.
We had the logic stream, as I mentioned at the last council meeting when that issue came up, as far as the main issue with the freeway on and off ramps when you make Brand and Central one way. But we had to prepare some drawings to show why with the off ramps and on ramps that wouldn't work. So I did not have that information. I do have that information. I'll be happy at your convenience to meet with you now and provide.
Well, just provide me with a report. I've just been waiting to know because I still think it's feasible.
Okay.
And secondly, something I brought to Mr. Zern, we've had the bus up in Glen Oaks Canyon now for 2 to 3 months. Those buses still only say MV on the side of them. Why can't a magnetic sign on the side say City of Glendale bus?
Beeline.
On those Beeline, I don't care what you call it, looks like a medevac. It's been 2 or 3 months. That should have been done in 1 week. I'd like to know when that's going to be done. I mean, it shows ridership going down. There's more than one reason for it. But I don't see how a lot of people even know what an MV stands for. And that was as of yesterday.
Mr. Mayor, quick answer. Good point. It's a good idea. We'll do it.
Thank you. And one last thing, because I've been hit with it in the campaign. As far as I know, the city council is the only one that can change Beeline bus routes. Is that right?
That's correct. We bring those to council.
Have you ever brought to us and asked us whether we wanted to change the lines on Honolulu in Montrose?
We did when we had originally in our first short-range plan when we did the routing and it wasn't working. We brought it back. This was a number of years ago.
Just recently?
Yeah,
the last 6 months, a year.
The only thing that was eliminated was a segment that went to the hospital, Purdue
Right.
Hills Hospital.
But have you looked at closing the Beeline bus route on Honolulu at all?
No, we did, as after the presentation that was made to council as far as changing the alignment of Route 3 that was using
Right.
Honolulu, we received comments from the Montrose merchants, and I personally attended their meeting
Yes.
and received their input, and we did not make any change. We did say that we will bring it back to City Council with the alignment that would show that the route will remain on Honolulu. So that is part of our short-range plan that will be presented.
But it was
to you.
never brought to council to make a decision one way or the other. Is that correct?
That was a recommendation that we would be bringing back to you as part of the short-range plan.
It was never presented to you, no.
No.
Never been presented, so we have never altered the route.
No.
We have not altered the route as it was in the presentation that was shown to you in the last short-range plan presentation.
And if I can, the distinction is the staff had been contemplating a change. They met with the merchants. The feedback to the staff was such that the staff now believes they wouldn't recommend to you that there be any change, but it's never come before you.
That's right.
So
And
we
part
never-
of our next presentation in 2 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks.
Making the point, we've never acted on it,
No, you haven't.
one way or the other.
Mayor.
Mayor Yusefian.
On the issue of the minibus that stops on Glen Oaks, in many cases, I have seen the van literally parked on the corner of Chevy Chase and Glen Oaks as you are coming out. And it just sits there. And in many cases, when big trucks want to make that turn, or even the MTA bus wants to make that turn right there on the corner
We're
of
getting
Chevy
far
Chase and
extreme
Glen
here.
Oaks to kind of go up, it's going to have
Somebody made a
having
point of
problems.
order.
We are changing that.
Point of order.
That means,
It means the mayor has the ability to limit debate consistent with the
I'm
policy
limiting the debate at
established.
a quarter of 10.
Oh, did our CPO step in?
C3PO.
CPO.
Oh, no. Mr.
I have a question for
Regarding the mobility study?
Yes, regarding the mobility study. And, Bonnie, I don't recall, we've had, obviously, as you know, several iterations of this. But I don't recall discussing with you the role that, this is very important, I want you guys to listen to me. The role that taxi cabs play in this whole mobility plan. As previously being on the Transportation Parking Commission, we were always grappling with the number of taxi cabs, whether it meets the public convenience and necessity criterion that we had set. What can you tell us on the role that taxi cabs would play in our, as we progress as a city with our growth downtown?
As development occurs downtown as anticipated by the DSP, the need for taxi cabs will increase as people may use a combination of walking and taking cabs in order to make short trips, especially downtown, as well as longer distance trips to the airport, et cetera. And currently, you have very limited taxi stands in downtown Glendale. We are recommending that taxis be integrated into downtown, that there be some additional cab stand locations, and I know that this will be coming back to you, I believe, in 2 weeks at your next meeting to discuss
Are we
taxi
supposed to
stand
establish the
locations.
Glendale City Cab Company?
That's not my understanding.
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing it out.
No.
There's going to be a lot more. Doesn't make economic sense, eh?
So taxi cabs, I mean, to the layman, you'd assume that if there's a cab available, I wouldn't have to pull my car out to go
Right.
down Brand or go to run an errand. So is that, from a professional
Yes.
analysis, does that make sense as
You
well?
will need more cabs in Glendale than you have now as Glendale densifies and develops downtown.
How about pedicabs? Would that be or rickshaws?
Well, they're certainly non-polluting. but they have limited appeal for people.
Point of order, can I do that? Roll call?
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Yusefian?
Aye.
Mayor Weaver?
Aye. Next, please.
Is there any new business?
Nope, and thank you, Bonnie, for coming
Thank you,
down.
Bonnie.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Stand adjourned at 9:50.